Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Level 1 News. Today is June 15th, and today we are doing government and social. And I think that we have another soda review, right?
Oh, yeah. This is the San Pellegrino and Arancita.
There's some Italians who are very angry in our audience right now.
That's a kind of orange, I guess.
So we were trying to figure out a sparkling orange beverage. Sparkling implies carbonation, but look, I can squeeze the sides, which implies that it's not under an insane amount of pressure.
Well, soda, I guess technically soda is just carbonated, right?
Yeah, it's like the static water that I drink.
This seems entirely unnecessary.
Yeah, but it keeps it from, like, nobody can molest your rim there.
Your cap, yeah.
Oh, so I could just like that.
I mean, look, it's a pandemic. But now what about soft drink? How do you get qualified as a soft drink? Is that also
if you add
carbonation?
Sugar? Let's look it up. If only we had access to the internet and all of human knowledge.
Yeah, super carbonated. It has a very nice aroma. Wow, that's like carbonated orange juice without the syrupiness of orange juice.
I don't think that is that's not a diet option. Let's get that out of the way. We're out of those.
This is fantastic.
That is a high sugar option. How many grams you got going on there?
Well, let's look. I didn't even look. 120 calories a can. Good Lord. 26 grams of sugar.
That's quite a bit.
Added sugar is 40%, so they added sugar on top of the fruit juice and everything else. But only 5 milligrams of sodium, so good for the blood pressure, bad for the gut.
So it is actually a soft drink. According to Wikipedia, a soft drink is something that includes water that's carbonated, a sweetener, and natural and/or artificial flavoring.
Water, sugar, orange juice concentrate, carbon dioxide, orange extract, citric acid, natural flavors, and pectin.
That sounds like a pretty decent ingredient list.
I wish that water and sugar and orange juice were reversed. I would love to be able to just like, okay, how much? What is it? I feel like that without the sugar, it would probably taste like orange peel and bitter, and they probably added the sugar to take the bitter off.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have a sophisticated palate, but I can taste those things individually.
You're supposed to be the authority on orange soda.
This is delicious, though, and it's probably the sugar.
Is it fair to compare it to the other ones?
With the sugar?
With diet? No?
I don't think so. Because, like, orange cream soda would rank really highly in... But, you know, it's like one can a day is going to kill me. So... But this is pretty good.
Is it caffeinated?
It didn't... The caffeine wasn't in the ingredient list, so I don't think so.
Oh, so you're still missing that hit as well.
Yeah, it contains...
So that might be a good thing.
19% juice. I would be tempted to see if I could find... if you need sugar without sugar, apple juice is usually a pretty good choice, or apple juice concentrate. And I bet an orange juice plus apple juice concentrate would probably work out pretty good.
Almost all commercial apple juice has sugar added.
Yeah. Well, where I grew up, we had a bunch of apple trees, and we would make apple juice in the food processor, and it was more like apple sauce than apple juice. But man, that was good, and there was not added sugar in that, and it was fantastic.
Something tells me you're not going to commit that time to making homemade.
No.
Wendell's got a bonsai tree now. He can grow apple trees. It's the same thing.
The thing with the homemade apple stuff is it didn't keep very long. Like, you would make that, and you would be like, yeah, this is the most amazing week in summer. And then at the end of that week, it was like, well, it'll be next summer before we enjoy that again.
Now
you probably put a lot of lemon juice in it, right, to like preserve it.
Yeah, I think we added some stuff other than apples to it. Maybe lemon juice or lemon maybe apple, maybe like some kind of cider or something that was like boiled the day before, but I don't remember the details.
Now imagine that same thing, except that's basically everything green. You get a longer window, but at some point we just don't have that anymore.
Yeah.
Thank God for refrigerated trucks and planes.
I think that might be an allegory for humanity's continued existence on this planet.
Well, yeah, it's unsustainable, just like the population. But hey, we're here, so we might as well just enjoy it. I'm doing my part.
Let's enjoy it together.
Just drink that delicious 26 grams of sugar. Get those endorphins.
Here's to you, random citizen.
And hope that the supply chain does not take yet another delicious drink from you, as it has already done, as it has taken so many things from us. But don't worry, because these genius, brilliant people are going to fix it all.
White House launches a task force to address supply chain disruptions. This does not bode well.
Isn't the whole TLDR is basically like, we have too much demand and we don't make anything in this country anymore? Like, isn't that pretty much it? Like,
well, not just that, but also thinking about moving production here, figuring out possible alternate means of production, but also looking at what was that?
Sorry, my husband coughed.
Wow. But also looking at the socio-political implications of, like, what if China gets really mad at us?
Yeah.
What do we do then? So they're going to, I guess, look at that and try to think of ways to deal with it.
Going to be a lot of nutrient paste in all our futures if that happens.
Cicada paste.
No, I think this is one thing that I think we're better at. I think the U.S. actually exports a lot of food. Like, we produce all of our own, or not all of it, but quite a bit of it.
Corn.
We don't want to eat all of our food, and yes, it's all corn.
It's all corn.
But like, China buys a lot of its food from us, so like maybe that's a little bit of insurance, hopefully. But
Cornflakes for 3 meals a day.
Yeah.
keep you alive.
Other than the supply chain, the other big issue that we have that's really been brought into focus recently are these ransomware attacks. And they are pretty much just running around the clock. What are you going to do about it? Well, the same group of people is going to figure that one out as well. Don't worry.
U.S. Senate to probe whether legislation is needed to combat cyber attacks. Spoiler alert, I'll tell you right now, the answer is no. But there is kind of this perverse situation in America and a lot of places where it doesn't pay for companies to even care about cybersecurity. Like, it's actually cheaper for them to pay the ransom than it is to just worry about any kind of IT infrastructure or security, which is really just got to be demoralizing if you work in those fields.
I'm sure they still hire those people and just treat them awful and give them no funding and then blame them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the Colonial Pipeline, that was not the latest ransomware attack, but it was one of the recent ones, and we're now learning more about it. And this one made me and a lot of people scratch our heads. How did they do this? Now, they have an excuse. I don't buy it. Do you buy it?
I have a plausible explanation. But
I can't wait to hear this.
CNN Politics reports, first on CNN, U.S. recovers millions in cryptocurrency paid to Colonial Pipeline ransomware hackers. So they got back 85%. That strongly suggests 15% commission to somebody else for some of the services.
So there are, I think, 3 possible... Well, what's your theory?
Here's what I think has happened. I think that there was a criminal gang that had already been infiltrated and they didn't realize it, and they were close to making arrests and doing everything else. But I think that they had copies of the private keys in the wallet and a couple of other things from their earlier de-anonymization efforts. So somebody was owned and didn't realize they were owned. And so when the ransom was transferred, they immediately transferred 15% out, which was a commission to somebody else. But all of the money that was in that main wallet was already compromised because they hadn't made their move, but they had compromised everything, all of the infrastructure.
Then that means we could have stopped it.
Yes, we could have stopped it from occurring in the first place.
Yeah, which is almost as bad as the other theories, which is this was kind of like one of those. Well, actually, we have a story about the Amazon bombing. This is another, could be another situation where you had a really stupid person and an FBI agent who wanted to climb the ladder.
There was, this is the standard MO for these kinds of operations. They will continue to operate it. See also there was that operation where, I don't want to say what they were distributing because of the algorithm, continued to be distributed by law enforcement. That was kind of a smoking gun, and that wasn't nearly as bad as this.
And they proved that some of the files were newer.
Yes.
So victimization of children is what we're talking about here. Happened. It was in Australia, right? But the FBI or the CIA was...
Our law enforcement was involved.
So we decided those children can be sacrificed for the greater good. And in this situation, if that's what happened, we decided... just throw the country into turmoil for a week. We need to catch these guys.
Well, there was another case of this that we'll have in next week's story because it was a developing story for this. But I was on the fence to include it or not, but we'll mention it. and that was there was the company that was making the secure network for criminals. It turns out a lot of the people on that corporate payroll were indirectly also paid by U.S. law enforcement, which sounds a lot like entrapment. Like, we have laws that prevent you from doing the entrapment thing, but the corporate structure actually very carefully avoided the kinds of thing that you run into entrapment. But basically, our own law enforcement was funding a criminal organization for like secure crypto phones for criminals in order to trap criminals.
Same with the bombing. They delivered him the fake bomb. I mean, that guy couldn't do it on his own. He needed help. He got it from an FBI agent. Yeah, it's terrifying to think that. But the good thing about it is, like in history, our government and no government around the world has ever targeted its citizens like that for gain. That's never happened.
Never.
So,
We've never tried to convince anybody to commit suicide or anything like that. That's never happened in our history.
Well, you know what makes me want to commit suicide? When I'm trying to stream on Twitch and my stupid internet connection every 10 minutes just craps out and drops to zero. Makes me furious. And maybe this young lady can do something about it. I doubt it.
Scoop, White House hires a broadband expert. The trigger words for me in this article were on both sides of the aisle and bipartisan efforts and working with industry executives to, lead the... It's like, no, we need somebody who is... in there that sees this for what it is, that sees the emperor in all of his naked immodesty and is like, wow, we really have to fix this.
But also she wasn't part of the FCC, like as a lawmaker. She was an attorney for the FCC, which means that she was on some of those cases where they did almost nothing.
Yeah.
And she was like, well, this seems like a good solution.
She was on one of those cases where they were literally defrauding us by submitting fraudulent stuff to the comment thing, and they had the digital forensics necessary to immediately say, sorry guys, we gave an organization a key that they could use to submit comments. We looked at it. It doesn't look legit. They didn't even have the integrity to stand up to do that. Because that's what happened. And she was on that. So...
Now, I'm sure that I will be excoriated in the comments for this, but I can't help but see a bit of a similarity here to America First. Now, I'm sure I must have missed it because I was reading these news stories, but I didn't see where everybody in the media was calling Biden a racist.
Biden orders investment ban in dozens of Chinese defense and tech firms. Hikvision was on the list. We made the list. Yeah. See, it's funny because like 2 years ago we did videos on Hikvision and we were like showing stuff and it was like, you probably shouldn't trust these. They made the list. Let's look at that. Huawei, Lucan, Xiaomi's back on the list. Didn't last week we reported that it was like they were off the list and now they're back on the list?
Yeah. Was that a different?
Probably exhausting for them. Good news, guys. They have like a cake in the conference room, and then like someone walks in and they're like, "We're back on the list," and they just trash the cake. I
mean, motive speaks to a lot of this, but there's so much that I would be paranoid about from like the motive, because it's like capitalistic. It's like Google is going to sell you a phone at a loss, and then make that money up in search traffic and revenue and building a profile and getting to know you as a consumer so that they can better sell you stuff. That's the business model. We're going to spend tens of billions of dollars doing browser engineering, not for the good of humanity, but because it's good for our bottom line. And, Huawei and Hikvision, whatever, they sell good products, let's say, below market cost with incredibly terrible security. And it's like, if you're completely objective, the only difference there is your motive and intent. Are you intent on controlling someone else's infrastructure for geopolitical power, or to sell them chocolate ho-hos?
Honestly, I think with the current administration, we've moved away from the, big tech is the enemy of the administration. Big tech is the friend of this administration.
Well, we got a couple of stories where the administration is getting ready to attack big tech, but we'll see.
Yeah, attack. They
in the news.
Compare that to how they treated the last one.
Yeah.
Not even close. And I got to say, I often make the same comment when we see stories like, not stories like this, but the precursors to this. And I always say, how are they ever going to catch these people? It's impossible. No one would be stupid enough to get caught.
And yet.
And here it is. I gotta eat my words here.
Latvian national has been charged for his alleged role in a transnational cybercrime organization. That sounds very fancy for, he was really dumb.
Krista, what do you think about the DOJ web design here? Seems kind of dated.
It's a little dated. I mean, it's definitely functional. It seems to work, but it's definitely a little dated.
So yeah, they finally got one. Man, you got to feel dumb if you're that guy. You think maybe Russia gave him up or something?
Some sort of. It's like, all right, you give us this guy, we'll give you Snowden or something.
Well, speaking of the Trump administration and their contentious relationship with the media, we've learned some interesting things that were, until now, completely sealed away from our eyes. That was done in that fight.
CNN says that the government issued gag order in fight for over reporters' email data. So they tried to subpoena a reporter's email data. Again, have we learned nothing from the 70s?
And the New York Times was also, they weren't trying to get data from the New York Times, but the New York Times wanted to talk about it, and they were also gagged. This has to do with the leaks. So, I mean, Trump's administration was basically a colander. And he was desperate to find out who it was. I bet it was a lot of people. And they went this far to try and get to it. I guess nothing ever came of it when Biden got in office. He just did away with it.
It's got to be exhausting, though, if you're the New York Times, because it's just like every time we report on something, we're going to have to deal with, 17 corrupt attorneys that don't understand the, United States Constitution.
Welcome to politics coverage. And as you mentioned earlier, yeah, we do get these headlines. And I think this is just sort of like the way we're going to do business from now on.
I only had a chance to unpack 3 of the prongs. I was not impressed.
Yeah, it's a lot of fancy talk. But what's it really going to do?
House Democrats about to uncork a 5-pronged assault on tech. Bills are set to be announced in the coming days that would make it easier to break up tech giant companies, block them from merging, and prohibit them from hobbling their rivals. So this is a very difficult and impossible to unpack. Like, we could probably do a Level 1 news special on this if you really have a lot of interest in that, and we need to outline it and do this kind of stuff. But let me explain it. This is the best way that I can think of to explain it kind of succinctly. Look at what we did to FCCs and the newspapers and consolidation. If you look at that, and if you look at how much of a train wreck that is, and you look at how much of a train wreck, remember those news broadcasts where all of the newscasters from all over the U.S. were saying basically the same thing? Can you think of a more dystopian thing than that?
Well, let's also point out that they recently further relaxed those rules.
Yes. And so if you look at this, there's a lot of stuff in here that makes it seem like we're going to break up big tech, blah, blah, blah. But it really just paves the way for Sinclair broadcasting of the internet. It's going to look like there's 17 different Twitters. But in fact, Jack Dorsey will control all of the 17 different Twitters. That's where we'll end up. And that's not really any better. Where we are today with broadcast media is perhaps worse even than Mark Zuckerberg being in control.
Are you implying that all of these different social media sites will indeed be like the rings of power, and they were all of them deceived because another ring was made?
Yeah, Joe Biden's got that ring.
But there will be a lot more. Were there 5 rings?
No, there were 20.
Wow. I had no idea.
Yeah.
Anyway, there will be a lot more than 20 because every little municipality will have its own Facebook, which still sends all the data back to the primary server. Yeah. Now, they claim that things like WhatsApp and Instagram and stuff like that wouldn't happen anymore because these rules would prevent those kinds of acquisitions. But you do have to prove a lot of stuff to prove that that's an acquisition you're not allowed to do.
Yeah, the a lot of these, at least the things like that, seemed more like it was just, lawmakers and people that are interested in the goodness of their country should be concerned when you have something like that video where all of the broadcasters were saying exactly the same thing with exactly the same words and exactly the same, intonation. I mean, go ahead, Krista. What were you going to say?
I was just saying, I was continuing your thought.
I mean, it's just, like that is disturbing to me as a human being on a level that is like it's deeply creepy and unsettling. And I think like I know my brain's broken and I know I'm a weird person, but it seems like most people, no matter which side of the aisle you fall on, or no matter what stance you take on topics, isn't that fundamentally wrong? How does nothing here would protect us from that? Nothing. This is all show. None of it matters.
Welcome to politics.
Yeah.
My doe-eyed optimism is slowly being destroyed by.
Which is funny because you're a doe standing in a completely burned forest. You've just been eating ashes for years, and somehow you haven't realized it. Well, last week, speaking of dystopia, last week we learned that the USA Today was being subpoenaed for a very specific and terrifying group of information. They wanted all of the records of who visited a website in a certain period of time when it had to do with this shooting story. And God bless them, USA Today is putting their foot down.
USA Today fights the FBI subpoena demanding records that would identify readers in a Florida shooting story. Now, since this got a lot of press, the FBI has withdrawn their request. Their exact request was, when this story went live, we want to know the IP addresses that looked at it in the first 25 minutes. Now, that doesn't actually bother me all that much. What bothers me is that they would use that as a basis for warrants against those 25 IP addresses to try to discover as much as possible about them.
Well, there's no way, as a law enforcement agent, you could group those people together.
Yeah.
Other than that thing.
Yeah.
And that thing shouldn't qualify for anything.
Yeah.
It makes no sense.
Exactly. What if you had your RSS reader open and your RSS reader happened to query the RSS and it pre-cached the story?
Or you live in that city and you have Google News alerts for your city. Or you just happen to be on any one of the social sites.
And all of that sort of builds up a, guilty until proven innocent, because like, you come up and then it's like, all right, let's come up with an explanation for why you showed up in this list. And it's like sometimes there's not a great explanation because the person that makes your operating system installs a weather widget on your taskbar that's just downloading random news, and that's why your computer did that. You don't know. It's non-deterministic.
I also noticed the weather widget this week and was like, what the hell?
Thanks, Microsoft.
And,
yeah.
Pro tip, God, I hope most of you already know this. If you ever get picked up on something like that, do not talk to them. The millisecond your lawyer enters that room, you are going home. Do not speak to them, because if you do speak to them and you tell them a lie, you're screwed.
They can lie.
Unless you're a kid. And that's recent.
I don't think that's really true. I think that's what they're supposed to do, but I mean, there's so many videos.
Unplug the camera.
See also that Netflix special? Yeah.
So MoviePass, remember MoviePass? I remember when we first started talking about MoviePass, we were sitting here like, how does that doesn't wash out in the accounting. They'll break you. You are underestimating how much people will abuse this. And they're like, no, it's fine. Listen, it's a beautiful thing we got here. Well, spoiler alert, it wasn't.
MoviePass, which isn't a thing anymore, has settled with the FTC over fraud and data security failures. Now, the big thing that fell out of this was MoviePass. The FTC said you were going out of your way to try to prevent customers from using their benefits, and they're like, "Well, yeah, that's the business model. that's how it works." And the FTC is like, "You can't do that."
But remember their advertising? They really pounded that unlimited thing.
Yeah.
They're like, no, you can watch as many movies as you want. And if you recall what they did, it was kind of a slow taper, but it just got worse and worse. At first, it was like, well, this is a big hit movie, so we're going to limit that. You can't go to that one. And by the end, it was like, you can choose from one of these two movies. And you can go at 2 p.m.
On a weekday.
Enjoy that.
It turns out that a lot of elderly people have nothing better to do all day than to just watch 10 movies.
Imagine if that had survived into the pandemic. Well, no, the theaters were closed, weren't they?
Yeah.
But now...
They were for a while, yeah.
Are they back open now?
They are.
Yeah. Reduced capacity.
Yeah, I think the movie industry is changing forever, and MoviePass will not be a part of it. Now, this is the story we were alluding to earlier, and this is the old find an idiot. Seth Aaron Penley, moron. And maybe an evil guy, maybe not, maybe just stupid. But an FBI agent found him, and he was like, "Oh, look what we've got here, sir. Would you like to bomb something?" And then
That sounds good.
they do everything for you.
Yeah. Man pleads guilty to plotting to bomb Amazon data center. It's like he just happened to find a guy that was going to help him actually, like, get all the materials and plan it. And it's like, well, you'd have to, like, plan how you're going to go in and, like, how you're going to get over the fence. And this guy was basically, a patsy for the whole thing. I mean, it's just, would he have found another way to do that?
Probably not. No. They were saying that I think he was planning some of, like, the January 6th type stuff too, maybe doing something like that again. Yeah. And I agree we shouldn't have him on the street.
Well, there's a lot of people though that that person is obviously upset, and they've been convinced by something that something has gone horribly wrong, and I don't know.
I'm also convinced of that. But
According to the article, he wanted
anything.
he wanted to send a message to the can't ever pronounce this word, oligarchs.
Yeah, I mean, he could send a message via email. That'd probably be a more acceptable way to send a message.
Well, if you remember, he thought that by destroying that Amazon data center, he was going to destroy the internet for like months and months. And I was like, dude, that's I bet the FBI agent told him that.
Yeah.
I guess that could be a fun job. Just finding a rube and destroying his life. Nah, that wouldn't be fun.
Maybe if you're like a psychopath.
You think we'll ever get to a point where VR is good enough where, like, you find a rube like that and they can just take him off the street, put the helmet on, and they don't realize the helmet's on, and you just see how far it would go?
You gotta sneak up behind them, slip it on. Well, Rebekah Jones, if you will recall, was at the heart of a big controversy down in Florida that had to do with the pandemic. And a lot of stuff has shaken out. We recently learned that she was given whistleblower status.
We talked about that last week, yeah.
Which was good. But now, also, some of that data is coming out.
Records of the Rebekah Jones case give a peek at Florida response to the thing that I still can't say. Text messages, emails, and interviews with a fired data expert reveal an unlikely ally in Governor DeSantis' administration. So 2 of the things that she was alleging that they were deny, this says, yeah, she's right. They did actually ask her to do that, and that is probably not consistent with their own policy and maybe against the law. One of those things was to take down data that was previously there. There are actually a few apologists for the government's actions in our comments. They were like, oh, she was insubordinate. But it's like, in the charter, you're not supposed to take down the previous data. That is inconsistent with their own policy.
And maybe if they could prove that data would have some sort of negative effect on the public. But how could you?
But it was accurate.
Yeah. The truth should always be absolution. Well, that ain't the way it works these days. And of course, it goes back to he wanted to open the state back up and get the business going again.
One of the things that was insubordination, which is the thing they claimed that she was fired for, was she's like, all right, you don't have to host the data. Since it's public domain data, I'll host it on my website. And so they said, no, you need to take it down off your website. And she was hosting it on her own dime. And because she would not take down her data of the copy, which is rightfully public domain, they said that was insubordination. That's not going to work out well for them in the employee review.
I don't know, though.
They'll probably invent other stuff, but at least that one.
They'll get away with this.
Yeah.
They'll just change the laws before they have to deal with her.
She'll probably be fine. But what should happen, there should be a clear equal and opposite reaction, and there will not be. They
should have better examples of insubordination than she wouldn't. It's like asking Ryan to take down a blog post about his kittens.
DeSantis should get a gun in his face. That's the only way this shakes out to be fair, and that won't happen. Unless he's, like into that in the bedroom or something. Now, a lot of people criticize the big tech companies, and there's some criticism to be made there for sure. And a lot of people are saying this could not get any worse. This is as bad as it could ever be. I would argue that there is one clear path to making it so much worse.
Ohio files a lawsuit to declare Google a public utility because depending on Google is basically an integral part of our lives. And I have to admit that, it's kind of well-reasoned. It's not well-reasoned at all. But it's kind of like from a 10,000-foot, I don't understand technology view, kinda, because I couldn't do a lot of the stuff that I do without Google.
the
without
thing-
just driving myself insane.
But the argument I think here is like the bad things that Google is doing. Do we think the government would not do those things?
I think they probably would.
They absolutely would, yeah.
Yeah,
But they
and
would
probably
be
work.
bad at it.
Yeah.
And they would leak it and lose it and mess it up.
Do we think we'll ever have a public utility that defends your right to privacy? Because I'm thinking about like the electric company, and the electric company's like, we got this 1 meter in this neighborhood that's using like 3 times more electricity than everybody. It's probably drugs. Then they fly over your house with a helicopter, and they're like, wow, that house is producing a lot of heat. And then they come knock on your door, and no, that's just my cryptocurrency mining. Really doesn't go over well.
No, I don't think we'll ever have that. Now, it has to be citizen controlled.
Yeah.
And even then, you hope that you don't get the corrupt person. And eventually, you do get the corrupt person.
Yeah.
It's basically a matter of time.
Like, we're just trying to get drugs out of our neighborhoods. Like, I get the drugs are bad, but don't harass normal people or non-druggy people.
Yeah, that's not what that's about. Moving across the pond, these are kind of the same headlines week after week. It really is different. We're not just recycling the same stories. It's just that it keeps happening.
Amazon gets a UK antitrust scrutiny on data usage, Financial Times says. This is from Bloomberg. So
This is the
story about the story.
old, third-party seller data thing. Same as we've heard from several other entities, but now the UK is lining up in that bread line. They'll probably get a little crumb for that. And Europe has also made some decisions about AI. Now, at the face of it, and maybe even some of them meant to do this, this was meant to sort of control AI. But the problem is, much like our tax code, it creates loopholes.
See, I thought this was like the 5-prong thing, because the 5-prong thing kind of reads good, but if you look for it, there's a lot of loopholes. This was totally written with loopholes.
Yeah.
Europe's AI rules open the door for mass use of facial recognition, critics warn. So the GDPR and data protection and blah, 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 we need protection in place for anti-face recognition. That's what this is meant to give EU citizens, but if you actually look at it closely, it looks like Amazon has written it so that they can still use facial recognition data for law enforcement and other purposes, which paves the way for private companies to create products that can then be sold to the government that contain facial recognition. Oops.
And a lot of people are
Or
saying
intentional.
that we're doing a bad thing here by creating these piecemeal, like the California thing.
Yeah.
We need a universal agreement. But have we universally agreed on anything as a globe?
Well, I mean, okay, all of this is predicated on the assumption that this software can work correctly. But if you understand how neural net training works, the algorithms are going to be inherently biased because the data sets are all biased, and the algorithms aren't even that good.
But it's magic. It's going to solve the world's problems.
Just case study of what we did to those poor black people in Detroit. We kept arresting the wrong people over and over and over again. Because, yay, facial recognition.
But it's so easy.
It is easy.
I just push this
I don't have to do
button,
any work.
and I go pick a guy up. He doesn't even resist because he's confused.
I've literally, just in basic, things like paying my bills, I've had Kafka-esque things where it's like, well, the computer says your account's closed, and it's like, but it doesn't make logical sense. Can I walk you through this? In what circumstance would this happen? And they're like, no, you're right. It shouldn't be like that. It's like, well, can you fix it? I don't know. The computer says it's closed.
Our God has spoken. And often, when the big tech company goes afoul, usually the EU is definitely the one with they're punching the hardest right now. They're going after these tech companies. And they'll get a settlement, and the tech company will be like, yeah, we'll do that. But then they don't really do it. They really skate the edges. And it seems like that's what Google has done here.
Bloomberg reports that Google has bowed to the EU and rivals with Android choice screen tweaks. Or this has to do with the search screen on Android. This is a terrible headline.
It's EU and rivals is like two entities.
Yeah. Well, it's on the search screen when you first set up your Android phone. You have a choice of what search engine, what browser, that kind of thing. And historically, Google has wanted people to bid for the top spot, and it always wins. But they want people to bid. So now they're not even going to do that. It's just going to be randomized. At least that's what they say.
And that
No more bidding.
That fee was what the EU came back and they were like, really? Seriously?
DuckDuckGo is never going to be able to afford $4.7 billion.
I was disappointed to learn that DuckDuckGo is just dressed up Bing.
Is it?
They lease Bing. Yeah.
Oh, that's... Oh.
Yeah, I was going to tell you about that, Chris. I knew it would crush you.
It would crush me. I use it to do for everything. I have it on my phone even.
They might change it somehow.
Make it more privacy friendly.
Well, definitely the privacy stuff. But I'm saying like the API, like they might somehow give you a different set of results based on it. I don't know. But they're definitely leasing Bing's search data.
Oh.
France is also in the running here. And this is kind of the same thing with, the old search result. You can't mess with the search result because you own everything kind of argument.
France fines Google $268 million for ad tech abuses and gets interoperability commitments. So the interoperability commitments are to do with ad placement and ad bidding. But that's it.
So you should be able to use any sort of ad platform interchangeably.
Yeah. Well, I got the impression that from this case, like the bidding process where like people bid on keywords and placement and blah, 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 was a big part of what France's complaint was, because Google controls that process too. And so they're saying, well, let's let other, high frequency trading, not really, but I don't know what else to call it, software get in there and be a part of the bid process. Google's like, you know what, whatever, that's fine. So we'll see.
And Russia is definitely, they seem to be tightening the screws quite a bit on all of their tech companies and stuff like that. They really are controlling the narrative. I mean, they always have. So have we, but they're doing it more than ever and not making any qualms about it.
Russia puts the squeeze on social media to police its critics. So this is like Twitter. If there's something they don't like on Twitter, they will slow Twitter down if Twitter doesn't remove the post within like an hour. And I think we have a story later that Twitter actually is going to capitulate. Oh, that was with India, though.
Oh, well, China.
And China.
India. And now Russia.
Yeah.
And was it Turkey? And there's a lot of places.
Yeah. So one of the posts that they took down, of course, was like the really political, the opposition leader stuff. And then also the Belarusian journalist. Let's not forget that. And that all seems like really horrible, abuse of power.
Yeah.
Not unlike the whole, gag order email.
At least they had the decency to make that secret. I always make this comparison. We do the same stuff, but we're secret about it, and Putin is just like, I'm doing it.
Yeah. In a way, you almost have to respect it.
I think it's maybe a little bit better. I don't know. Maybe not. Engagement challenge. Which form of control and tyranny do you prefer? Visible or invisible?
Now with your phones.
Apple has announced a bunch of new features. We'll talk a little bit more about this one later. It's basically just kind of like a souped up proxy to protect you.
Leave it to Apple to call a VPN something else.
Yeah. And but there is one major omission in this new piece of software.
Apple's new private relay feature will not be available in China. Why? Well, it goes against the law in China.
Because it's effective.
Oh.
And this is a clickbait headline from Reuters. It's actually not just China. It is... Oh, I thought they had to... Oh, yeah, here we go. It's all of these puppies.
There's Belarus again. Kazakhstan, Saudi Arabia, South Africa, Turkmenistan, Uganda, and the Philippines. Why is everything terrible everywhere?
Corruption is the answer to that question right there. So you don't get it if you live in one of those countries. I'm sorry. I'm also sorry that you're an Apple user. I always hate to just use a tweet, but I forgot to go back and replace this with a story. But it does sort of fill in all the gaps. If you're thinking, how can I want to mine cryptocurrency? I desperately want to mine
But
Bitcoin.
that environmental impact.
But I love the planet. And I'm a hippie, and what can I do? Well, there is an answer, and you're going to love it.
It's Dr. Evil's Volcano Lair. I've just instructed the president of LAGOSV, our state-owned geothermal electric company, to put up a plan to offer facilities for Bitcoin mining for very cheap, 100% clean, 100% renewable, zero emissions energy from our volcanoes. So, El Salvador is where we're talking about. Now, almost immediately, within hours, the International Monetary Fund came out and were like, what?
Well, that was after this. This made them much more upset than that.
El Salvador becomes the first country to adopt Bitcoin as a legal tender after passing a law. So this is a parallel legal tender. They're not replacing their legal tender with Bitcoin. They're just saying, hey, if somebody wants to pay you in Bitcoin, that's okay.
And it's tax-free. It's not a commodity anymore. You can own it, you can trade it, and you don't have to pay those nasty capital gains taxes if you make money. So that's nice.
I predict a lot of whales are going to be opening offshore companies in El Salvador.
Yeah, I think if you buy a little land near a volcano there right now, you're going to do quite well for yourself. Maybe put a really nice house on it.
Will be there.
That's a good
He's
question.
probably already there with Tesla Bitcoin holdings. I mean, that's just good business.
And another one in the parade of countries who have decided not to be accountable to the tech companies.
Nigeria has suspended Twitter indefinitely after the Twitter deleted a tweet from its president because it was against Twitter policy. So, all right, we'll just block Twitter.
Look at that stupid beard.
So he needs to trim it up. I like a beard, but it's getting a little like Rasputin-ish.
He needs to go live in the woods and leave us alone.
He has enough money to, certainly.
Yeah. Could be a nice
He
living.
probably wants to.
And, oh boy, this one sounds like the exact same story, doesn't it? Yeah, it kind of is.
Twitter restricts accounts in India to comply with government legal requests. This is, once again, the cow urine poop stories. Why?
Just don't get it, chat.
It's funny, like the names of these accounts that they banned. Jazzy B. Jazzy B.
Singer and songwriter, Jazzy.
And of course, Elfresh. Oh, Elfresh the Lion. He's my favorite. So I guess these are young musicians or whatever, and they're doing that whole Rage Against the Machine type, anti-government stuff, and Modi is not having it. And Twitter's like, yep, we agree. We'll turn that right off, sir.
Good Lord.
If you, maybe if you were in the Cook household, the Tim Cook household, as like a serving wench or something, when this headline dropped, you might have heard glass breaking or, screams of anger, because this is exactly the kind of thing they are not going to put up with.
Instagram CEO says Facebook will help users get around Apple's cut of transactions. So this is for creators. Facebook wants to be the new home for creators. Until 2023, Facebook is saying we're not going to take any cuts, ad revenue, ad placement, anything, direct subscriptions, any way that you want to support a creator on the Facebook platform, we're going to do that, and we're going to do it for free.
And they've said, all right, we're not going to try and defeat the 30% thing. If you're on the Apple device, that's going to be paid. But what we want to do is we want to create offline relationships between you and these companies, which sounds like an amazing way to build marketing. Don't you think?
Yeah, it really does.
So you're going to be volunteering to save 30% to give Facebook and whoever, Louis Vuitton, all of this extra information and work directly with them offline.
But Louis Vuitton could get your, like if our audience was super interested in Louis Vuitton would have that list, whereas right now only Google has that list.
Right, yeah. Yeah, that's...
which is hugely valuable to Facebook.
And terrifying, but real bad news for Apple.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
Facebook has also weighed in on the whole, when do we get back to normal thing? And the answer is kind of never, but halfway.
Facebook is going to allow remote work for all employees. There are some rules and gotchas and catches and that sort of thing, but they're saying, hey, if remote work works for you and your team and everything else, then no problem.
Did we just... I think we're okay. Graphics driver crash.
Uh-oh.
Zuckerberg himself has committed, I think he said 3 days a week.
Yep.
He's going to be remote because he's committed to this new lifestyle.
That's probably about right. I mean, certainly for programming, it's I could see having FaceTime a couple of days a week and then, no, I need to keep my nose to the grindstone for everything else. That kind of makes sense.
But here's the big catch, and this is a nasty one. I'm surprised they get more pushback on this. If you say, let's say that you're an H-1B, right? And you're from India. And you're like, well, wait a minute. I do this job from India. He's going to say, well, yeah, but in India, I would pay you a lot less.
Yep.
So I'm going to pay you a lot less.
Yep.
Because it's not the same work.
Doesn't that mean that there's an incredible economic implosion coming for first world countries? Or an or an incredible economic boom coming for India and everywhere else?
I think we're about waist deep at this point.
That's been a problem for a long time. I mean, we've dealt with that, where we've had to deal with code from other countries where someone outsourced it, and then it's like, oh, this was not done correctly.
Yeah, this is not the best.
I think
sometimes it's been okay.
I think you mentioned this in the other story, but this is the other item from that big thing, is that as a sort of a slap in the face of Apple, they're taking a little moratorium here.
Yeah, Facebook also won't take a cut from creators until 2023. So that Zuckerberg said that. So it's happening for Instagram, but it's also happening for Facebook. But what this means, like this is the headline, you should read this and all this kind of stuff. But what this means is that whole creator thing is happening across all the Facebook properties. So the Zuck is going to war is why we say that. And so you should, the Zuck at war is a lens that you should look at with these headlines, because a lot of the reporters don't piece it together for the big picture. I think Zuckerberg sees their survival as trying to be as, like, they're kind of done being passive. They're either going to fail spectacularly or they're going to succeed. They're not trying to keep their head down anymore. It's a change in strategy. Because before now it was all like, let's just keep our head down until Cambridge Analytica blows over. And now it's like, we need to claw our way for stuff to survival, so we're going to fight with anybody.
Also, a lot of Apple certainly, and how about YouTube, treats their creators like absolute trash.
Yeah.
I mean, they just kick them and piss on them and screw them in every way. If he really did make it better, it's attractive. I don't think he will.
Yeah. If you could talk about mature topics with a mature audience that skews older without having to worry about saying the wrong word, that would be amazing. But no, that's too much work.
Or you could actually say the words of the biggest news story in certainly the century.
Certainly, yes. Did you do the click? You didn't do the click.
Oh, this is not the biggest news story.
No, it's not.
The thing we're not allowed to say.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
the thing with the number.
Yeah.
the disease.
Like, if you could just say that on Facebook. Yeah, this is this is weird, because, like, I guess Krista, you seem to be sort of hip to this kind of thing. Is the idea here that they find you and lie to you and then kind of like kidnap you, the type of thing? Is that how this works?
So it's kind of like grooming, is my understanding. So, like, you see an ad on Facebook that's like a modeling agency, and they're like, hey, we're looking for talent. And then you get in touch with someone there, and then they're like, oh, we'll fly you out to LA or something, and then we'll do a shoot. And then it turns out, oh, you're actually doing porn. And if you don't do it, they won't give you a ticket back.
Did I hear a metal bowl? So, yeah, if you are in looking and you're like, oh, that sounds like a good business model, where can I do that? Well, the answer is Facebook.
Yeah.
Over half of online recruitment in active very bad things cases last year occurred on Facebook, a report says. Facebook, not really. And it's a big... But do we want the Zuck policing private messages and doing that kind of thing? Like monitoring user activity in general to be like...
No. That you can't fix it that way. The only way this gets fixed is, like, education for the girls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know how
It'd be like monitoring the Level 1 forums for, like, oh, we've got some arch indoctrination going on. We need to stop that. And it's like, what is in private messages? And no one cared.
Yeah. I do think that it's okay to expect a level of mental resistance from your users. But that might not be true of, like, a 13-year-old girl.
Yeah.
It seems like this is more of a problem for law enforcement, where it's like, I don't know, that they should be monitoring this and not Facebook. But
well, they certainly think they should have access to all those private messages at all times, just to, just for trawling purposes.
But I don't think that they would make that their top priority if they had that.
No, it wouldn't be a top priority, but they would certainly go digging.
So if you've got young kids of any ilk, teach them about Facebook. I would say don't let them use it, but realistically, I don't think that's an option anymore, right?
Teach them about the dregs of humanity.
Well, because, like, at least for me, the reason I got one initially was in college, because, like, whenever you had a group project, the only way to get hold of all the people in the group was by using Facebook.
Yeah.
Everyone didn't use messages for that.
Another weep for humanity moment.
Yeah.
And this one is just a fun headline, and it shows you, I guess, the power of the algorithm. But when she drilled down into how the algorithm figured her out, it wasn't exactly Sherlock Holmes here.
Yeah.
So you made it pretty easy.
TikTok accidentally detected my ADHD. For 23 years, everyone missed the warning signs. And so this is just somebody's personal experience. Is like, wait a minute. The reason that I'm doing this over and over again is because my mind just bounces from thing to thing to thing to thing. Okay.
But the actual way that it figured out that the reason she got this flag is because every time she saw one of those videos, she watched it all the way through. She was like, I couldn't stop watching them because I was like, oh, it's describing everything about me. So I feel like the algorithm had a pretty easy one there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's funny that also she says that like none of her family and friends noticed. I bet they did.
They probably did.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know a lot about ADHD, but like I know autism in women is very, very undiagnosed. I think that's changing now because like all of the data they had for it was mostly for boys. And so like the way that it presents in boys is different from girls, and girls are better at masking their autism than boys are.
She talked
typically
about that actually, Krista. She talked about how every time she Googled ADHD, all she could ever find was like, how do I tell if my son is ADHD?
Yeah.
And there was nothing for adults.
Mwah, mwah.
But she describes ADHD as being like completely incapable of managing any kind of schedule or like planning things or focusing, which is, I guess that's how it's different from autism, which I guess there's still some crossover there.
All right, we got a bumper crop of business stories tomorrow too.
Oh, crops, you say?
Oh, garden update. It has been pouring rain all week here, and my garden has loved it. My tomatoes have probably grown 6 inches this week,
Wow.
which is very impressive.
That's huge
Basil loves
news.
it too. I also have I have blossoms on my zucchinis.
What about that deer?
The deer has not come back. It did eat all my May apples.
It doesn't need you anymore. It won't be back.
You'll never get to live your dream.
I'll be eating the May apple. I know.
It'll
Damn.
be back when you put out some food.
No, not the
Yeah,
May
I'm sure,
apples.
Pumpkins and stuff get bigger. Maybe it'll come out. I don't have any blossoms on the pumpkin yet, but they are getting large.
Maybe Krista can do the Disney princess thing with the deer.
I know. It's always like in the back part of the property where the woods are. We can see it from like our dining room window.
Or she can do the Eastern Kentucky princess thing, fill the freezer.
Well, the one we've seen has been a doe. I don't know if it's the same one, but each time it's been a doe. So. And it's also not in season right now in Kentucky. You can't shoot deer. And in the fall, though.
Your audio just took a terrible turn.
Yeah, it's been for like the last 5 minutes. It's just been awful. Thanks, Discord.
Is it in there?
Yeah,
But we're at the end of the episode, so we're going to let you deal with that.
we're gonna.
All right.
We'll see you tomorrow.
Bye. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Level 1 News. Today is June 16th, and today we're doing, was it Business and Robot?
It was Business and Robot.
Business and Robot.
Let's start out with some hardware news. The first one is a rumor, and it's on Mac Rumors. It checks out, but this does seem like something that is coming, and it will be, I guess, our first maybe real commercial contender here, don't you think?
Yeah. Apple is going to have its first AR headset launching the second quarter of 2022. Seems oddly specific.
So they're basing this rumor on another company, Genius, I think is what it was called. Genius Optical, who it seems like is all of a sudden getting a lot of business around these lenses. So probably where they're going. It's going
Look
to
at this drawing.
It seems kind of what's the word where you're going to take out your little brother, but he's not going to be riding a bicycle, but he is going to be wearing a helmet. Seems like that.
Oh, you like special needs kind of?
Yeah.
Oh.
I will definitely judge people I see wearing this. But I'll also avoid them because I know that they're recording.
Yeah.
And Apple has announced the new, well, last week we got the new Windows announcement. People weren't really that excited about that.
No.
That kind of was a big turd in terms of, will Apple get more? I think they did get a little bit more traction, but again, it doesn't seem to have the sort of gravitas that it did in recent years when they would announce these kinds of things.
Apple announces macOS Monterey, the next Mac desktop operating system. It's got all the privacy features and crap like that we covered in the government section.
Unless you're in China.
But it also has other features, like they're trying to get the whole app ecosystem thing working. So if you're on a desktop and you got a mouse and keyboard, you can just put your laptop or your iPad near the computer, and your mouse and keyboard will roam to the other device.
I gotta say, that does seem really cool.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like, something that you see happening, you're like, wow. But I wonder, because Apple, they famously, things work usually. I mean, they might work in horrible ways, but it work. The normies can totally get into it. You think that's going to be solid every single time?
Probably.
That pairing?
Yeah, but it's going to, the limitation will be like it'd have to know and that kind of thing. That kind of pairing already basically exists within like iMessage, but they got so far, they colored so far outside the lines with iMessage that like once you register your phone, it just uses your number as an identifier, and like the phone function of your phone no longer even matters with iMessage. And so there'll be an aspect of it that's like that, I'm sure.
And you think it'll be able to do 2 iPads that are like in roughly the same place?
How does it know if it's on the left or the right of your screen?
That's a good question.
Does it, I don't know. It's in beta. I should go play with it. But the Mac operating system leaves such a bad taste in my mouth because it's almost not terrible, but then you have to it's like Apple spent money on this, and it's just, I don't know.
And a lot of money on it, no less.
Yeah, I would, Apple's got to be working like Nestle. It's like, I might be in a cool office in like, Sausalito doing some Nestle stuff, but somewhere there's some child labor going on and they're suffering.
But the difference is Nestle manages to put out some amazing water with that slavery. It's a quality product.
And meanwhile, Apple is perverting the Unix ethos.
The other thing they seem to be doing is restricting features based on certain technology being in these machines. Now, they do have an excuse. I don't buy it at all. Because there's it could be that whole thing where they did it and they were like, you know what, this is not a good enough experience on this. That's the only excuse I can think of, because you could totally do these things.
Several macOS Monterey features are unavailable on Intel-based Macs. So some of those seem to be around like video acceleration and crap like that. Intel's excuse is like, we don't have the machine learning.
The neural, what do they call that? The neural something?
Neural engine.
Neural chip.
Yeah.
That's the excuse. That the neural chip does not exist in the Intel-based Macs, and because they can't lean on that, they can't give you these features, and here they are.
Yeah. Meanwhile, there's somebody inside Intel screaming right now. It's like, we tried to convince Apple to go with Nirvana. We tried, which is Intel's thing. And Intel, it's like, we tried putting AVX 512 in our mobile products, which, part of the reason is the whole AI inference training thing. Nobody wants to use AVX 512 in laptops. It's kind of funny.
Explain this one based on the neural chip.
Unlimited keyboard dictation, previously limited to 60 seconds per instance.
So you can do it for 60 seconds on an Intel chip, but not forever. Do they get too hot?
I have had people complain about stuff like that. Like, I was on a project where it wasn't anything that I was doing, but like one of the complaints was the webpage makes the MacBook fans run really high, and it's like, well, yeah, that's what happens when you don't use request animation frame. I mean, I don't know what to tell you.
And we learned last week that the European Union is working on those union-wide digital IDs. And it's not just going to be an ID, it's going to be a wallet, and it's going to be all these different things. And I think Apple has known about this for a lot longer than we have.
Apple Wallet will support IDs and driver's licenses in iOS 15. What do you think the over-under is? They've already talked to the feds about this, and it's like, this is all the people that are enrolled, and it's going to be,
I think, can't you already I know you can do insurance digitally.
Yeah.
I think you can do a license, international driver's licenses. There's a great video on YouTube, and it's this guy from, Arab Emirates or something like that, and he's clearly just the richest guy in the world. And he's in this insane sports car. And some yokel cop from like Arkansas, he's touring the country. He's driving through the country, pulls him over, and he's like, do you have a driver's license? He's like, oh, yes, sir, I do. Takes the steering wheel off the car because it's such an insane sports car. He can't move around without taking off the steering wheel. And he gets out his international digital driver's license, and that cop goes insane. This isn't real. I'm taking you in. And when he finally Gets to the point, he's like, "Sir, please call your supervisor." That guy's like, "I don't have time for this." Just marches off. Scan out. Already have digital driver's license. If you really want one, you can get one. Did we do the headline yet?
We did.
Oh, okay. Got lost in my soliloquy there.
Happens to me all the time. It's fine.
Apple has also announced some new, like you mentioned, mostly privacy-focused stuff. This is another one.
Apple announces iCloud Plus with privacy-focused features. Yeah, that's really cool. You know what's one really cool feature? None of these headlines or articles covered is if you're doing a migration and you don't have enough space, they'll give you, if you bought an Apple device, they'll give you enough space so you can move your stuff. That was cool.
How kind of them.
Yeah.
They did say that existing paid iCloud users are going to get this for the same monthly subscription price, which makes me think new users are not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
this is just a randomly generated email address and some other features like that.
But it's an email address that changes every time.
Yeah.
So you can.
One place reported you could also use Apple's email with your own vanity domain now, which would also be a pretty big deal. But I looked for a follow up on that and I couldn't find it. So that's probably a developing thing.
If you hate Zoom and Teams and all the other alternatives, and you just love that Apple ecosystem, but you can't afford their products, good news.
FaceTime is coming to Android and Windows via the web. FaceTime becomes a Zoom alternative. So FaceTime, finally, there's a website you can go to and it'll work, which is good because Apple has to dog food their own web browser APIs, which are basically awful. So that'll be good.
Even works on Intel chips.
Surprise.
Facebook is getting into the smartwatch area, and I gotta say, this must be one of those things where they scraped the data and figured out what people wanted, because I think people will want this.
Yeah.
I think they found a feature that is ridiculous, but will be a big seller.
Facebook plans the first smartwatch for next summer with 2 cameras and a heart rate monitor. A detachable display with cameras for capturing video without your phone. So like something's happening, you just grab your watch face, pop it off the watch band and hold it up like this, and it's a miniature camera.
Now did you get the impression that was wireless?
I did.
So there's going to be 2 batteries. Do you think the shuttle battery will just leach off the main battery?
Probably.
And charge itself back up? What do you think the runtime is on a
15 minutes at most, probably.
Yeah.
Also, how much of a shock hitting it before that thing falls off?
I think that people will hit a bump on the subway and all the phones will explode off. Do you think? What do you think about the artwork here? Because the first time I saw it, it looked like somebody that was looking at microbes under like a microscope, and I was like, "Oh, that's kind of an interesting subtext." But I don't know if that's what it actually is.
It looks like just wheels, but
if you zoom in? What are the little scribbles?
Let's
that's what you're calling
this image.
Is that just the gears inside a watch?
Yeah, you know how like in grade school you would look at like pond water under a microscope and there were all the little amoebas and flagella and everything like flying around. It looks like that, except it's Facebook watch.
No, but I think it's watch parts.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, it's gears.
But I think my imagination is just filled in the gaps so much better.
Kind of a weird image. It's not very clear.
Do I not have a right?
Yeah, it's fine. It could be worse.
We'll get to the bottom of this.
I zoomed in on it. It's definitely they look like gears.
Yeah, little watch pieces.
Okay. Interesting.
Little flywheels and gears and stuff like that.
Okay. Spooky.
I've never heard of this before. You ever heard of this before?
Nope.
It's an interesting concept. The picture here is actually, it's much smaller than that. This shows the full package. There's a speaker attached to this, but it's a tiny little thing. This is a 1-bit gaming system. 1 bit.
Playdate, the console with a crank, gets a July pre-order for $179 and game details. So you crank the crank, and that's part of the magic here.
Yeah, I was thinking that was like, I'll charge it up. Let me get some playtime. No, that's a controller.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's actually less exciting to me because I was like, oh, it's like a crank radio. So
No.
if you were out somewhere without power, you could.
Nope.
Here's a better picture of how small it is. There are no third-party games, only first-party games, and they have they're going to give you 24 of those in season 1. I don't know if you keep those in season 2, do you? Maybe, I don't know.
Why would they take them away?
But I think they are. Oh yeah, they're making a dev kit, so you might get some third-party stuff later, but it's definitely not going to. I mean, even the simplest game is not going to run on this thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
From x86 or Android or whatever.
Yeah.
You think you get Pixel Dungeon on that? Probably not.
No.
Yeah.
But the
It'd be
browser
hard to
based,
see.
I think it's pretty genius having the dev kit be browser based, because it's like if you really are interested in it, you can simulate one of these in any modern web browser because it's so many orders of magnitude more powerful.
Yeah, that's true. It's interesting when the browser is better than the gaming system by default.
Even Safari.
It also means that people will pirate those and put them on the web, and you won't need that little thing.
Yeah.
And you can play it on that other device that's in your pocket. That
Is a phone.
Yeah.
You already have.
No crank though. You got to emulate the crank. And Stadia, remember that?
Stadia what now?
That's somehow still around. What are they doing? Well, they're desperately trying to get it in front of people's eyes.
Google Stadia heads to Chromecast with Google TV, Android TV, and other devices on June 23rd. Why didn't they launch with this? Literally, I think in like Linus's video or something, they were doing that immediately with a phone, and it was like, why can't I do this? Why?
I'm a little bit worried because, as we will see later, Microsoft is doing the same thing.
Yep.
I'm worried that we're going into a world of exclusivity based on brand. Because as you can see here, certain brands have already joined Team Stadia, and Walmart, Philips, Xiaomi, Nvidia, and Hisense. But other products are giving Xbox. There's no exclusivity yet. But, I mean, what have we seen so far in the console world?
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of exclusivity. That was one of the things, one of the games was a couple of years ago at the E3 demo was, this is going to be massively multiplayer, but different people will have different roles in the game.
They've tried that several times.
Yeah.
The problem is one role is considerably more desirable than all the other roles.
Yeah.
Who wants to be infantry when you can be sniper? Well, this is a headline that shouldn't surprise anybody. That the old shortage, everybody's getting whatever they can.
US PC shipments soar 73% in the first quarter as Apple falls from the top spot. I would love to know what percentage of that is people buying PCs just to get a GPU.
HP has taken the top spot. And congratulations, I guess. It's funny because, Apple, don't you think with the M1, they have one of the strongest offerings they've had in a long time?
Yeah, they really do. It's surprising.
People are not interested in it. I mean, they're still interested in it.
Yeah, but they're not like, selling it 2 or 3 to 1.
Now, a common phrase, and you can fill in whatever group you want here. I won't give you a group because that might be insulting to some people, but beware of X bearing gifts. And I think giant dystopian megacorporations fits very snugly into that X.
Walmart will give 740,000 employees a free Samsung smartphone because a lot of what a lot of what Walmart is going to be doing is going to depend on the logistics of being able to track their employees, get a hold of them immediately, do the messaging. Walmart actually has a lot of technology in store for like talking to a cashier and like push to talk and like one button radio. I think the vision is that they're going to replace all of that, and all of that is more expensive than a smartphone anyway. I mean, what sense what world does it make sense that you've got a walkie-talkie basically that costs as much or more than a modern smartphone? Why don't we just give everybody a smartphone, put it on the corporate network, put some corporate applications on it. You do your clock in, clock out, you do your inventory, you do all your stuff from that one device. Big cost savings, and nobody can complain about having to do all of that tracking because we give them the phone.
And here's one you're not thinking about. And this one is a little bit insidious, but I guarantee that it was considered. Are you going to buy an extra phone if they give you this phone?
I think a
Not
lot
on
of
a
the
Walmart salary.
Yeah.
And this phone, by design, won't let you do anything but work during work hours. So it's a top-down control.
Imagine like you're on your break. You had to take your break late one day, but so like your schedule's not quite right. And it's like, oh, you can't look at your phone right now. But it's like, but I'm on my lunch. And it's like, no phone.
or something weird happens, like there's a blizzard or ice storm or something, and they close the store when that one of those rare occasions, and you're sitting at home trying to get weather updates, but you're technically supposed to be working.
The phone's like, no, I need to call 911 because the customer has collapsed, and it's like, back to your register, pleb.
So yeah, they said those phones retail for like $400. I bet. What do you think Walmart paid? Like $100 each, if
Probably,
that?
yeah, not even.
Yeah.
Those were already in a warehouse somewhere, and Samsung was like, well, I guess if you don't really care about the specs too much.
And they're not great, but like you say, on a Walmart salary,
Yeah.
that's nice to have. What's up, Christy? You got a problem back there?
My camera.
Oh, no.
Oh,
Oh,
there you go.
So it's back.
Yeah,
It's back. I fixed it.
We missed you so much.
Oh.
And this is a story that I learned about 10 minutes ago. So I don't know much about it. Christy, why don't you tell us about it?
Crossplay is coming to Overwatch. Ew. This is not a feature anybody asked for.
this is why that guy left, isn't it?
Well, they also announced recently that they're switching the game from 6v6 to 5v5. And then right after they announced that, they announced this, and everyone's like, is this why? This is why Jeff left, isn't it?
How many different... so you have it on their PC platform, right? Is this on... What other consoles is this on?
On like Xbox, PS4, and the Switch. The Switch has it, which I don't understand how that would be a good experience at all. But
The Switch version is probably dumbed down a little bit graphically, right? Well, I guess not. That's old enough that they probably run that. So, can you opt in or out of this?
I think you can if you're a console player. But PC, like, no, it's just... if you're playing quick play, you might have a console player in your game.
Won't this make you much more dominant?
Yes, probably. That's what everyone was like, well, is that going to be unfair? And the answer is probably yes. But also, I think console players might get aim assist as well.
Well, that's not fair.
Yeah, so I don't know how it's going to work exactly. Probably not well, but yeah, I wasn't thrilled to see that.
What about Overwatch 2? Seems like we've been waiting a long time for that.
There was the game, I can't remember, the Summer Game Awards, or not awards, but it was like an event thing that was happening earlier this week, and they did like a brief thing about Overwatch, and everyone was really excited, and they're like, oh, they're going to talk about Overwatch 2, and they just showed 2 skins.
Were they good?
Like, oh, they were fine. Like, they were okay. It was not really the information I wanted to hear, but...
Well, Krista, think about this. Think about how exciting this is. Not only could someone maybe be playing Overwatch with you on an Xbox, someone could be playing Overwatch with you on a toaster or a TV or a refrigerator.
Microsoft is building its own streaming devices as part of a major Xbox Game Pass expansion.
So we learned about the Steam Pal. What a terrible name that was. NVIDIA's got the Shield. Didn't somebody else announce one? Well, Stadia's kind of like that.
Nintendo literally has the Switch, which is like the best-selling video game console in history.
But that's not... This is when all the work's being done on the server.
Yeah.
So you can run it on crappy stuff. And that'll make they'll have even worse latency, Krista, and you can dominate them so much harder.
And that's what it's about. Can you imagine playing this like any sort of game on a fridge, though? Is that a use case anyone will ever do? But it'd be funny if they did.
You got to use the little levers for the water and the ice.
Yeah, you're just pouring it all over your kitchen floor, but you're winning so hard.
This is a nonsense article, but the thing I liked about this article is he pointed out, he was like, they're kind of doing better. Like, they've kind of been moving in the right direction, but clearly somebody at Microsoft just can't help themselves. They have to do this.
Microsoft is annoying Windows users again, and they can't take it anymore. You can see why Microsoft does this. You can also see why they shouldn't, or should, but maybe just do it in a different way. So this is, of course, in reference to everybody getting the calendar weather news widget at the bottom right-hand corner of their start bar.
And it's
involuntarily.
And the message center is now telling you that one of the things you need to resolve is you need to start using Bing.
Yeah. In a sort of condescending way. There was somebody that commented on this article, or maybe the article mentioned it, was like, I was already using Bing as my default search engine, but I guess because I had more than one browser, it wanted to be Bing in all of them.
Let us help you uninstall Chrome. Now, can you think of any reason why someone wouldn't use Bing?
Oh, I can think of several reasons, not the least of which is it's crappy.
But this one, you can file this, and actually we had more than one instance of this year. This was when evil government got in bed with evil corporation, and they accidentally did too much. Like they were requested to do one thing, and they're like, yeah, I'll do that, but just because of a technical error.
I've definitely experienced this. Like, this request comes in at like 4:00 on a Friday, and they're like, you have to do this before the weekend. And it's like, this is not planned. This is dumb. Like, this is not like your poor planning does not constitute a crisis on my part.
There should have been one more equal in that database query. You need to add one more filter to this.
Bing censors image search for Tank Man, even in the U.S. So we recently had the Tiananmen Square anniversary, and somebody noticed that if you search Tank Man on Bing, even in the U.S., you didn't get this result, which is,
In fact, you didn't get any results.
There are no results
like
for Tank Man.
Not even pictures of tanks. Just says, we can't find anything. I don't know what you're talking about.
Tank Man is it somehow sexist if Tank Girl gets returned, but Tank Man does not get returned?
Tank Girl was a superhero. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, that's disgusting, and they should be ashamed, but they're probably not. We talked about, I don't know how long ago it was, but it was these businesses, and I wasn't really aware of this, where they will post slander about you, and then you can pay them to take down said slander. But they have this big network, and it propagates, so it just gets worse and worse the longer you let it go. And thank God our glorious leaders, our tech leaders, are doing something about it.
Google seeks to break the vicious cycle of online slander. In response to Times articles, the search giant is changing its algorithm, part of a major shift in how Google polices harmful content. One thing this article, at least I don't think the New York Times, I was struggling a little bit with the paywall, but I don't think the article mentioned that now for certain kinds of content, Google also doesn't require a court order. So if there's something like this that you're a victim of, you can just do the Google opt-out thing, and they will remove it even without a court order. Like, they'll actually look at it.
And you're going to be able to register with them in some way and say, hey, I was a victim of this at this time, because it tends to happen over and over. And if you're on that list, you're apparently going to get fast-tracked for future removals.
Huh.
So
This is also really similar to some of the stuff that the EU has already made Google do. So yay for infrastructure reuse.
Maybe. We'll see. Browser plugins are constantly showcased on the security section of this news broadcast because they are
a dumpster fire.
It's one of the most insecure things you can do. I'm terrified of them. Every time someone recommends a browser extension in the comments, I just chuckle a little bit. It's like, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I'll install that. Sure. Right. And they claim that this is going to fix it, although it's not as cohesive as you would think.
Yeah.
They're still kind of all going to do the same, what they want to do.
Apple, Mozilla, Google, and Microsoft form a group to standardize browser plugins. Really, what's happening is Apple is very terrible with performance and organization in their browser, and hopefully Mozilla, Google, and Microsoft are going to be able to use Apple's browser to be less terrible on the Apple platform, because the performance is so abysmally terrible on Apple platforms for their own integrated browsers.
I don't think we will get a universal app code type of thing, but it should be closer if you want to make one for every different kind of browser. We'll see. Did we talk about this last week?
We did.
I thought this came out.
This is a new article.
This is June 7th.
Yeah. This article is talking about how this is why Jeff Bezos relinquished some of his executive roles, because one can imagine the board and the shareholders are like, "You're doing what now? That seems awfully risky."
A slight risk.
Yeah. Jeff Bezos plans to travel to space on Blue Origin flight. So he's been dreaming of traveling to space since age 5, he says.
His brother is going to go with him, and a mystery seat that you could get.
Wow.
Bidding at the time of this article, which was on the 7th, was at $2.8 million.
Good Lord.
Wouldn't it be hilarious if it was Musk?
$2.8 million seems like a steal, given that I've seen some NFTs go for like $11-12 million.
They're on the launch pad waiting. And as soon as the rockets ignite, Musk just rips off his harness and starts bashing things. So, you'll never get up there.
So, Jeff Bezos has children, right?
Yes.
Okay. He's got heirs to the throne who will stay on Earth.
But I don't think he's grooming them for that.
Oh.
I think he's.
What happens if something happens when he goes up there?
I think he's kind of like a Tywin Lannister type of personality. He plans to rule until he dies, and then who cares? I was very excited about this, and then I got to reading about it because I was like, oh, how are they possibly doing this? And then you learn that the secret is transistors. They're using transistors. We can't be wasting transistors on this. Don't they know there's a shortage?
Engineers at MIT have created actual programmable fibers. So they've demoed, there's the fibers, but then there's also a demo where they wove it into a sweater. And you just,
Look at all that excitement. So these little squares here are the transistors woven in. And so they're saying you can store data in this, and it can also be be used as sensors. Like a temperature sensor would be trivial here, obviously. I can't help but think of the Uyghurs.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, hey, you're only working at 30% of your heart rate. Demerit.
Or Uyghur sympathy detected.
It's so sad that we get this amazing tech and our first thought is supply shortage and how will this be used to track slaves. That's so sad.
Sad but realistic, I would argue.
Yeah.
You know what else is sad, Krista? Let's talk about the worst possible PR move. And once again, this is a giant tech corporation bowing to communists, but accidentally going too far. Exactly the same as the China story.
Uber offers to pay for its driver's health insurance and then yanks it away. And it wasn't really like a full health insurance. It was like a partial benefits thing.
But you could get like $1,300. That's not bad.
But then they said, oops, we didn't mean to do that. We don't know what happened. Don't do that.
So it turns out that was only for California.
Ooh.
Yeah. Accidentally sent that to everybody. And you can see here, look at the email with this beautiful header image and the call to action button. It's like, oh, we love you. And it's like, ooh, just plain text. By the way,
oops,
not real.
Yeah.
We're not really doing that. You think anybody ran out and it's like, I can finally get some teeth. Now they're just stuck with that bill.
I think somebody just read that and would just quietly contemplate the sadness of their existence.
Yeah. I'm sure there's plenty of time to do that when you're driving Uber and Lyft. Probably a lot of introspection in that driver's seat.
See, the crazy thing is that should be a reasonable living, and it probably would be as a co-op.
Has been since the invention of the automobile.
Yes, and it's like it's somehow perverted into this awful conglomerated thing. That doesn't even make sense. Don't do it. Not don't drive a car. Don't give randos most of the value of your time working. It doesn't make sense.
There was a bit of an internet outage. It only lasted for an hour. I didn't experience this. Was this during the workday?
It was like 4 o'clock.
Yeah, okay. So I didn't even notice, but a lot of people did, and it's hilarious when they finally figured out what caused it.
Twitch, Pinterest, Reddit, and more go down because of a Fastly CDN outage, and it was resolved after about an hour. So it turns out that there was a bug that was lurking in Fastly CDN. One of Fastly's customers was trying to make a change to their infrastructure, botched it somehow, and that created a cascading failure across all of the Fastly properties. Whoops.
It's definitely going to be some code review to figure out who's to blame for that commit.
Someone's ass getting reamed as we speak.
Or someone's looking into those new unemployment benefits as we speak.
Or the FBI is about to announce the arrest of a new moron that was instead of taking out an Amazon data center, that a bad code commit.
That guy did more damage by mistake than the Amazon bomber. Well, Bitcoin had a big year in 2020, and we are now learning about the tax implications of all that and which countries sold the most.
Yeah, Americans pocketed $4 billion in Bitcoin profits in 2020, analysis reveals. Now, I think they mean cryptocurrency profits, not just Bitcoin, because this is based on tax data and what people have actually declared on their tax returns.
And this is only realized gains. If you are just sitting on unrealized gains, it doesn't count toward this. So, it's a lot of money. A lot of money for the plebs. Netflix, I feel like Netflix might be languishing a little bit. What have they done recently that's really good?
The Crown.
Is that recent?
Well, they did a new season, like, I guess a year
okay.
ago. So they probably have another one in the works, but...
But they are thinking about getting into that gaming thing, which I don't know about that. That sounds really good, ridiculous. And this, which I guess I'm not a collector, but maybe some people are. So far, it's only anime. Maybe that'll be big.
Netflix plans to hawk popular items from popular shows. So like the set pieces and decorations and like screen used whatever, you can buy that now. Some of it.
And they're making action figure lines and stuff for those animes. I guess those are animes that they produced.
Did you see they're bringing back He-Man and the Masters of the Universe?
They already did that.
No, there's a new one coming. It's going to be anime style.
No, they already did that.
It's out?
It was like 2006 or something.
Oh.
And it was ridiculous.
I think something new is coming.
It was awful.
Do you consider that canon?
No, God, no.
No. They're supposed to be making an anime show about Rohan as well, Helm Hammerhand.
Is that like the war for like all of the tribes of men war or whatever it was?
No, it's Helm Hammerhand was one of the kings of Rohan who like there were rumors that he like ate his enemies and stuff. It's actually a pretty cool story in the appendices, but it would be like a very short show. I think it would just be about one piece of Rohirric history.
Did he in fact have hammers for hands?
No. He did crush an enemy's skull though.
All right, well, that checks out.
I've definitely been that angry sometimes working on the Linux kernel.
That's that Masters of the Universe show that they did. The moment I tuned out, I remember the moment I tuned out. They got into like there was a fight, and they started just like spinning their weapons, and it was like, you know, the spinning and spinning and spinning. And I was sitting there, I was like, okay, yeah. And then they started like jumping around, spinning, jumping. About a minute of that, I'm done.
Did they start yelling out the names of their attacks too?
Anime garbage.
That sounds suspiciously like Dragon Ball Z because somebody was trying to get me into that, and some stuff like that was happening there, and I was like, I'm done.
Let's power up for 2 episodes.
Yeah.
I hate that.
Thrilling stuff right there. It's going to be a good comment section this week. We learned last week, and this week, here he is, the man, the legend, is telling us about, we learned about Google using AI to better chip fabrication. And now, thanks to the god of press, Kyle Wiggers, we get even more details about it.
Google used reinforcement learning to design next-generation AI accelerator chips. So we had the TensorFlow chips, and then we had the TensorFlow like 2.0 chips, and these moved ahead of GPUs and everything else. Now, just like the AlphaGo thing, they're using AI to design new AI chips. So this is like what they did with AlphaGo, except for new silicon. And goodness gracious, this is incredible for what is technically a 4th-generation product.
I'm terrified that we're going to get to a place, with the war breaking out with China or whatever, and we lose this, but we still have the chips.
Yeah.
And then it's this situation where it's like Thundar. There's some technology left, but we have to be so careful with it because we can't get back to it. Volkswagen has some new plans in terms of self-driving, and bad news, it's the subscription model. It seems like the car companies are looking at a way to make you pay for all the things that are already in your car.
What would you pay for autonomous driving? Volkswagen hopes that that's $8.50 per hour. What an incredible way to monetize this.
That's higher than the minimum wage here in the U.S.
They're not going to use it all day.
Yeah, and it won't be by the time it. I'm sure that if this comes to pass, using AI for those types of jobs will only cost somewhat less than whatever the minimum wage is.
Well, I think based on the consumer price index lately, $8.50 might be, like enough to buy one slice of bread. So maybe it won't be so bad.
Yeah.
They also talk about putting in like performance modes and stuff like that. So if you want to drive fast, but just while you're having fun, you could turn it on for an hour, pay the fee as it's running, then turn it back off while you don't need performance. Still seems crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also,
Someone will do it, though.
You think if you forget and leave that switch on, are they going to refund you?
No.
You can park it overnight?
No. You're
It's
going
like,
to
oh, no. Self-driving. Car might not have been moving, but self-driving was technically on. Here's your bill.
Thanks, Amazon. That EC2 instance was booted up. It doesn't matter that you weren't using it.
And that is our first story in robot. And we have another major robot milestone here.
Drone refuels U.S. Navy fighter jet in midair for the first time. So the pilot was in the jet, not the drone.
It was a F-18 and what kind of drone was it? Stingray drone. It had a lot of fuel on it. It was, how many gallons do you remember? 500 pounds of fuel.
Wow.
That's a lot of weight for a drone to be carrying around. What happens if they lose control of that? That's a bomb.
It's more like napalm, but yeah.
That's that jet fuel, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
it'll just burn and burn and
pretty
burn.
flammable.
You know.
Mix in a couple
Cause
lithium
environmental
batteries.
problem.
Yeah.
This is not the first we've seen of these. MSN seems to be treating it like it is. We've definitely seen these before, but we have a new one. The capacity leaves a little bit to be desired, I have to say.
Sidewalk-traveling robots are here, aiming to deliver restaurant meals on the cheap while being cute. They're 18 inches tall, and they've got a little flag, and they'll obey all of the stuff. They don't move too fast. They try to stay out of the way.
Scroll down in this article. There's a picture of it, like with its little eyes on. Why does he look so angry when they're removing the food?
Why he does look angry, doesn't he?
Yeah. Don't touch my food.
Make better food choices.
This is the third time this week you've ordered pizza.
No, Krista. You will not be ordering pizza in this unless you like it folded
Yeah, so it is pretty
twice.
small.
Because they have said that one of the things that people complain about is, look how small that is.
Yeah.
If it
You get a
didn't,
personal pan.
yeah. Well, I'm sure they could make like a little clamp to hold the pizza box, but then that would tempt people to just take the pizza.
Or birds. Or dogs.
Rue would love some stolen robot pizza.
How long, assuming that some of that smell could get out, which I imagine it probably can, how long would Rue chase a delivery robot?
Probably a long time. She would be very interested in getting inside of it. Imagine if somehow, in some weird scenario, it ends up in Eastern Kentucky and then the bears get into it.
Yeah. I don't know if Rue could pry it open, but I bet a bear could.
Yeah.
I bet a bear could, yeah.
Well, this is another one of those things where it's like, yeah, we're still enemies with China, but God, this is convenient.
They're so cool.
They have some good products. What are we going to do?
The U.S. Pentagon changes its mind about DJI drones. The Pentagon has cleared only 2 drone models so far, the Mavic Pro and the Matrice 600 Pro, after allegations of they pose a security risk. So I don't know. The article doesn't really dig into it, but it seems like the security audit uncovered incompetence rather than malice in terms of the lack of security in the software and operating systems on these devices. They don't become like a spy beacon, but they're not especially securely written either.
But I bet there's all sorts of like U.S. geological and infrastructure and the like bridges and roads crews who were like, guys, come on.
We need this.
We have to use these now. This is the new way we do this.
Yeah.
Self-driving, I don't know. I don't feel like we're seeing as many self-driving headlines as we used to. It's really tapered off. But it seems like in the trucking world, they are still trying to move forward.
Ooh, self-driving Waymo and those kind of trucks are hauling loads between Houston and Fort Worth. The Class 8 trucks will still carry a driver and Waymo technicians for safety, but probably not for long.
Yeah. After 6 months, they'll pull those people out of there.
Yeah.
And it is it's just like the whole warehouse to warehouse thing. It's always the same route, but still impressive.
I wonder, I know we have a few truckers in our audience. I wonder what their thoughts are. It's like, if you get to be that driver and it's like you're almost in a way training your replacement.
Not even training it.
Yeah,
Just babysitting it. Just waiting till it grows up enough to kill you.
And it's like, I wonder if you think like, well, future generations won't have to suffer as I have,
But if you've got kids
driving this truck. But yeah, it's like, what am I going to do?
Right.
Am I going to be taken care of?
Future generations won't suffer as you have because they'll be dead from starvation.
Do you think that that in this kind of a situation where there's a little bit of economic disruption going on, do you think there should be some kind of safety net for those people from the government?
We got safety nets. What are you talking about?
Well, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's a difficult situation. I think you probably, if anybody answered that question, they would be guessing.
Yeah.
Because we don't know.
Yeah.
You know how the government said that inflation wasn't happening? And then they said it's transitory? And then there was the 4%.
4.27%. Thank you very much.
And that's the fake number, too.
Yeah.
The real number is probably well over 10.
Yeah, that's what it costs you to buy a gallon of milk, which is heavily subsidized anyway. Lumber? I've got a pile of lumber that has doubled in value in the last year.
But also, transportation is the number one job in the country and has been for a very long time.
Yeah.
And truckers make up a very large part of that, but also like Amazon drivers and stuff like that. That's a lot of people to make angry all at once.
Yeah.
Right.
To displace rapidly.
Like around here when, the coal mines all started going out, they didn't really do a whole lot for those miners, but they're also a much smaller proportion of the population. And people don't care about Appalachia anywhere. So it's like, they're probably just like, screw them, but they can't really do that with truckers, right?
I'm just thinking, like, if you look at, like, let's say plumbing or electrician, to go from, like, the greenest noob on that to, like, just the most basic levels of, like, toward getting your certification, like your plumber's license or your electrician's license or whatever, that's about 3 years. And I don't see it taking 3 years to displace the vast majority of delivery people once the software is figured out.
Although, if inflation keeps going the way that it is, they might just take those drivers out of the cab, put them in the trailer with a gun. Because it's going to take it.
My anxiety's getting higher.
Remember Venezuela? Look at some videos from Venezuela truckers. Or South Africa. Good Lord.
Are you talking about that one where there was like the armored vehicle and the guy has to do the driving and the other guy has no idea what's going on?
That's South Africa.
Yeah.
Yeah, that guy was a boss. Like nerves of steel.
The other guy, not so much.
Have you seen the one where, so like later, they had the dash cam footage.
Yeah.
And they synced it up.
Yeah.
All those like hardcore shifts and when he was just working that wheel, he was trying to kill them. He was driving at them. It's like, wow.
Well, I mean, that was a 20,000-pound vehicle. I mean, it's basically a tank.
Yeah, but I mean, I think most people, perhaps myself included, would be like, I need to get away from this situation as fast as possible.
Yeah.
But that guy was so hardcore, he was like, no, I'm going to drive into them.
Well, he probably
full
thought
Mad Max.
that they were going to chase him until...
They did.
Yeah. So he's just like, I have to deal with this.
That's who you want to be doing that job, for sure. And our final story about AI is a dystopian future that we're all going to be able to enjoy together.
Yeah.
Because even the poorest of us can experience this one.
McDonald's is testing automated drive-thru ordering at 10 Chicago restaurants. If you need a preview of this, all you need to do is watch the movie Idiocracy. They said the accuracy is about 80 to 85%, which rivals that of a live person at McDonald's. So, I mean, I guess that's fine.
Chicago is definitely the place you want to pilot this, though, because I imagine there's a lot of different kinds of dialects coming through that drive-thru.
Hello, not sure. Would you like some extra big-ass fries?
Really not a lot of enunciation in some of those missed orders. But now, they have said that they realize Chicago is way easier than spreading this out over the entire country because there's so many McDonald's.
Yeah.
So it's going to take a while, but they're definitely doing it. How long do you think till we get it?
3 years.
Yeah.
I'd say
It'll
2.
be many years.
Just barely not enough time to retrain those people into another profession.
Maybe we can put the fast food workers and the drivers out of work at the same time.
What could possibly go wrong?
Great plan.
Nervous laughter.
Well, Krista, we've already gotten the garden update and the deer update. I don't know if we have anything else to talk about here.
Nope. Still very muggy and rainy here.
How's your level of fear and,
Just general anxiety about the state of the world.
Yeah.
It's like a solid 7.
Out of 10?
Yeah.
Does it ever hit 10?
Sometimes, like late at night when I'm trying to sleep. Usually.
Hey, the good news is that the bank is probably not going to be chasing you down for the mortgage with the collapse of society, so that's probably good, right?
Yeah, that's
Well, the beauty of, when you owe money in an existing contract, hyperinflation's your friend.
Yeah.
You'll be able to pay off that house with like a sack of flour.
I should start growing wheat.
There you go.
Maybe.
Some people are going to mishear that, and that's going to be some great comments.
Oh, no. Wheat.
Friday.
Hello, everybody. Today it's June 18th, and we are doing security and nonsense, and it's going to be a speedy episode because one has a call at 4. So let's do it.
No sort. Pure potpourri. There's no rhyme or reason to this. Let's just get right into it. This is the security section. So, of course, what do we have to talk about? Data breaches and ransomware.
Internal data from breach circulating online, CD Projekt Red. So this is the same data breach that we reported a long time ago. I guess the hackers have got whatever value they can out of selling it on the black market. Now you can get it for just pennies on the dollar. So there's all sorts of fun things in the leak.
I think that leak included some of the Cyberpunk stuff, but also all of the Witcher stuff. I think that was a compilable version of the Witcher, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Of course, you can get that for like $5 now, so maybe not much in piracy, but still, that's unfortunate. And
it wasn't just CD Projekt Red, it's also EA.
Well, this one's a fresh breach and more video game stuff, which is crazy because there's no sort here. This is just lucky.
Hackers steal a wealth of data from game giant EA. They got FIFA 21, the entire Havoc engine, they think, and a whole bunch of other stuff. EA's not actually sure yet. They just said, well, it's pretty extensive. So many terabytes of data. Frostbite engine.
Couldn't happen to a better bunch of people. You think, oh no, that's Activision. I was going to say it's going to affect Overwatch, but that's Activision. That's the other evil gaming company. Yeah. Well, we've already kind of talked about this, but this was the big story that we have now learned that hilariously, they paid and didn't use the de-encryption tool because it was too slow.
JBS paid $11 million in ransom after the hackers shut down the meat plants. So they got everything back up and running pretty quickly, but like you say, for most things, they did not actually use the decryption key. They used their own backups, which is good, but I gathered that there were a few things that weren't backed up and they just didn't have time to figure it out, so they were just like, all right, just pay it.
Yeah, just get it running again. Get this meat out the door. I noticed that the ground beef was very limited this week, but all the other meats were still there.
Yeah.
Maybe just one building was still shut down.
Think about how much worse this is going to be the more and more automated things get. Think about when Uber is fully self-driving. I mean, I know they sold off their self-driving division, but think about it, and think about when they get ransomware. Or UPS. It's like UPS we've got 80% of our workforce replaced with robots, and then they get ransomware.
Or, somebody gets into the Uber network and falsely orders 500 cars to go to some unpopular politician's house.
Yeah.
Strategically placed gridlock.
Well, speaking of, government and businesses in bed together, Ring sure does love cops. Sure does love giving them a lot of information. Now, we've recently learned that Ring is going to make public when police request your thing. You got to go through that. Was it Neighborhoods?
Neighborhoods, yeah.
App. It's going to be on there. People can see it. But there are other things that they do not want you to know about the police.
Ring refuses to say how many users had video footage obtained by police. This is kind of odd. Like, why would they do one thing and then also do this? Unless the retroactive number for this was just astonishingly large.
Yeah.
It's all of them. All of them.
I think you're right. I think the number was so disturbing. They said, oh, well, could you put together a report? We'll let people know. And then they give them the report, and they said, oh, this never sees the light of day.
Yeah.
So, we'll see. Oh, we already talked about that one. Krista cut that story.
I cut it. It's gone.
It's just the Fastly story again. We talked about Fastly in business, not security. So if you missed that, check it out.
Now, this one I love because this goes back to so many leaks. Snowden, WikiLeaks, all of them basically, where we learned very horrible and terrifying things about people in power. But the narrative from the media wasn't, oh my God, look what these people in power are doing. The narrative was, oh my God, these hackers must be stopped.
Remember the Panama Papers?
Same thing here.
U.S. super rich pay almost no income tax. They got Warren Buffett and Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk. And I don't even think the whole pay no income tax is like the worst of the problem. The business climate is literally, it's like you have this business and it's producing, a 7% return every year. That's pretty good. A lot of people would be happy with that. But these people, the way they think is, I want to spend a whole bunch of money, and if we have massive losses, fine, then I get a tax write-off for that. And if we have massive gains, that's great. I'm going to be happy with that. But if you're just making 7% a year or 20% a year or whatever, that's not enough. I could be using that money to either fund a moonshot that's going to make me a ton of money or get me a tax write-off. And that's sort of a perverse situation that we have.
So they borrow money and then they get tax write-offs on the interest, but borrowed money is not income.
Yeah.
And there's all these ridiculous loopholes. Now, these three men are very famous, and some of them are very well liked.
Yeah.
But now that we know that they didn't pay taxes 1 year, I imagine there have been calls for them to quit and for their deaths and making fun of their haircuts and that kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
In some circles of the internet. But not nearly as many as you might expect.
But not a full court press from the entire media
No.
saying that they're bad?
No.
That's weird.
That is a little weird.
Because I remember...
Doesn't Jeff Bezos own the Washington Post? Who owns the BBC?
Maybe we shouldn't talk about that. People don't like that. Colonial is, they're the ones that everybody's feeling bad for, but it turns out there was another victim, and they kind of kept it on the down low.
Line Star is that victim. They were struck with ransomware, and they had 70 gigabytes of their data leaked, so they're probably going to be targeted again. And they weren't going to say anything, but there was, I guess the leak was found on the internet, and then activists freaked out, and then it was like, yeah, we were part of that too.
And it is a good question. Is that 70 gigabytes? How much of a national security risk is that?
Yeah.
Because it's a pipeline.
Is it probably all their topo maps and locations of the pipeline? And it's like there's a section of pipeline that's 7 miles in this basically unreachable wilderness. That'd be a great place to attack the pipeline. They've got the data.
Probably various timings for things.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, hopefully people don't want to attack the pipeline, but...
I'm not worried about that guy that was working on the data center for Amazon, but I am worried about nation states.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's several former Soviet countries that would be far more effective than the Amazon bomber.
We were really effective at, catching Lowell here with his, with his ammonia thing, but meanwhile the nation state people are having their way with the ladder logic systems, and it's like, guys, we got to shift our priorities here. We got to be not stupid.
Well, if you're a Walmart employee, I would say look closely at this story. Think about parallels that are coming up in your life, because this is a big honeypot.
Yeah. The FBI and Australian police ran an encrypted chat platform to catch criminal gangs. That shouldn't have been the headline. The headline should have been, the FBI was paying employees of this company, basically, and have since charged them with conspiracy and racketeering because they, quote unquote, had to have known it was being used for criminal enterprise.
So if you remember, they took down another one of these services that they also infiltrated, but everybody immediately transitioned to this one because they were used to using the encrypted chat and everything. But the FBI was ahead of them. They had already infiltrated this one, and they were waiting to set up those accounts.
Yeah.
So it's a pro move, you got to say. No matter how you feel about the FBI, this one was well played.
Yeah, but you have to look at this and then look at the recovery of the cryptocurrency from the ransomware, the story that we had earlier in the week, and it's like, are these things related? Almost certainly.
And if they are, oh boy, that's a problem.
Yeah.
That's going to be an issue. Ransomware is not just limited to things that produce actual items like fuel or meat. Sometimes it's all about stealing the data.
Ransomware hits Capitol Hill contractor. So this was a contractor that provides a platform for politicians to stay in touch with their constituents. When they email you to beg for money or run their website or whatever, this platform was also hit by ransomware, and it was down for the better part of a week.
Somehow, speaking to their constituents wasn't a huge priority. What do you think if they had had a system like that for the lobbyists and that went down?
Oh, that would have been fixed within like a day.
Yeah.
Although I think lobbyists do it in person.
Yeah, I was going to say that network is so clandestine that it was be barely even affected.
Yeah.
They're still using pigeons and ravens.
And coded messages like, what are your thoughts on...
Ukraine is in a bit of a tight spot because politically they're in one place and geographically they're in another.
Ukraine warns of a massive Russian spear phishing campaign. So 3 Ukrainian cybersecurity agencies last week have warned of a massive spear phishing operation carried out by Russian threat actors against the Ukrainian government and the private sector. So basically, this is a spear phishing campaign that's targeting infrastructure and targeting monitoring stuff. It looks like whoever the actors are, they want to get into network administration. They want to get into IT services. It's a really fairly targeted, if extensive, spear phishing campaign, and it's probably going to be effective.
Now that we don't have any sort of moving hard drives in all of our electronics, we have these fun new magnetic charging cables and stuff like that. They are very convenient, I will say. It's nice. It makes it less likely that you're going to, like even if you yank it out, it's not like you're going to break a cord or something like that. It's great. But something that most of us don't ever consider could be an issue with that.
MagSafe have a clinically significant risk to cardiac devices, says the American Heart Association. So somebody a couple of weeks ago, we were making fun of it in the nonsense section, and somebody pointed it out a couple of weeks ago, and the American Heart Association investigated it. Yeah, those really strong magnets and electromagnetic fields in the charging thing, they can interfere because, some of those implants, they communicate electromagnetically through your skin, can be a little bit of a problem.
Krista, you mentioned that your mom has a pacemaker and she's dealt with this in other devices.
Yeah, so my mom obviously has to avoid this kind of thing, but also even just like little things, like they make eyelashes that are magnetic. Like you have magnetic eyeliner and then you apply the lash to that. My cousin was trying to sell her something. My mom was like, I can't use that. That will mess with my pacemaker.
It's a weird thing to have to be constantly aware of.
Yeah, conscious of.
Well, we've learned some things about these hacks, specifically the Colonial Pipeline hack, and this is terrifying if you're an owner or a security team for one of these businesses, because how do you defend against this? You would literally have to, I guess you would have to force everybody to put their stuff through that.
This is one of the cool things that some of the cloud service providers do. If you use Duo or some of the Azure stuff, there's a checkbox in Azure that'll check everybody's password against have I been pwned, and when they log in. And so like if you log in with a bad password, it's like the Chrome pop-up that's like, oh, this password is a known bad password from the list. So have I been pwned really truly is an incredible service for humanity.
Unfortunately, I guess Colonial didn't get the memo.
No. Hacked password, the Colonial hack happened because of a hacked password, and they left the user account with a hacked password on a VPN service. So that's how they got in and basically had free reign.
But that person no longer was with Colonial Pipeline.
Yeah,
and yet the account was still active. So basic security practices would have saved them.
Yeah.
Yeah, sad. I bet they'll fix it next time.
Yep.
Maybe. I don't know if I have a lot of faith in our people right now.
Well, it's private sector. I think they'll figure it out. We have a new, well, I guess it's not a new malware, but it's a new vector for an existing malware.
Yeah. Freakout malware worms its way into vulnerable VMware servers. So VMware issued a pretty severe update for vCenter, which is like the virtual machine that manages your, all of your VMware infrastructure. And it was possible to get remote root basically without logging in vCenter. And typically vCenter has full root access to all of your VMware infrastructure. So from there, the bad guys could launch all sorts of crazy attacks. And this particular one gives them a remote web shell, which means they have full remote shell access to your stuff. But also they're able to deploy ransomware against pretty much everything. Your data stores, virtual machines, the whole 9 yards. They've got the keys to the kingdom. Cleanup is not easy, and assurance from later reinfection is also super not easy. So this is the second major security incident that VMware has had. Might be time to double your security and code review staff.
It has been patched. So if you are not affected yet, you can get the newest version.
Yeah, if you haven't patched, oh my God, you got to patch. Also, don't put your stuff on the internet. Maybe put the management network as a completely separate and locked down network from everything else. Probably a good idea.
That your security team would tell you if you'd hire them. This is the worst story of the week, I believe, and I would have put it at the end of this section if I had sorted, but we're on a no sort kind of day. So just enjoy this horror that is coming. This is coming, and you're going to have to take steps to fight it.
Casey Startup Stealth Data helps companies unlock users behind anonymous web traffic. They talk about car dealerships, which are perhaps some of the dregs of society. I'm so sorry. But they're really interested in knowing as much as they possibly can.
The literal quote in this was, "We get a lot of phone calls to our car dealership, but a lot of those people don't want to give us their phone number.
Wonder
we need
why.
those phone numbers."
Yeah.
They need to contact you about your car's extended warranty.
It's really insane. So from doing stuff with ad agencies and car dealerships, I know that if you have an 800 number, an 800 number blocks caller ID blocker because you're paying for the call.
They did ask this gentleman about, isn't this an insane privacy invasion? And aren't you doing a horrible thing here? And he was like, no. As a society, we've traded privacy for convenience. Everybody wants this.
But I don't want it.
No, you do, Krista. You want it desperately. So that's coming. What they do is they try to marry up your IP address with all the other stuff and probably some fingerprinting going on there to try and figure out exactly who you are when you visit a website. And then they'll send that. It's kind of like Google Analytics, but a lot more information. Volkswagen has had a breach. We should have put all these together, but again, no sort this week.
Volkswagen says a vendor's security lapse exposed 3.3 million drivers' details. So this sounds like a third-party analytics firm or an ad agency or something got the telemetry data or perhaps the sales data from their CRM system. And
it was mostly just identifying information, generic stuff, but some of them, it was also loan information, credit information.
Those pesky dealerships, they don't have a security team.
Moving on to nonsense, we have 12 minutes.
Go.
Let's talk about the elephants.
First, the Google Translate for Elephants debuts. An online animal catalog lets you decode communications and other behaviors.
Oh, sorry.
To see everyone's favorite pachyderm.
Now, this is not all vocal. I don't know if any of it's vocal, actually. A lot of the examples they use had to do with the ears.
Yeah.
Body. Yeah.
And it seemed like all of them translated to aggression.
It's like holding up a tablet. It's like, okay, Google, what's it saying to me? And it's like, it's going to kill you, but you've already been charged.
So I don't know who's going to use this, but...
That should be a Rick and Morty gag. They had the squirrel translation helmet or whatever. They should do that with elephants, and elephants are just the most aggressive, thug voices ever.
And last week we talked about we are sending those little water bears and squid into space, to the space station, to see what happens to them. And then we're going to freeze them to death. But we're going to learn a lot. However, maybe we didn't need to do that at all. Maybe we didn't even need to leave the planet for this.
This animal survived 24,000 years frozen in the Siberian permafrost, like Krista, who I think is now frozen.
Oh, no.
Oh.
Hang on. I'll fix it.
The permafrost of
fine.
OBS.
Oh, I got to switch back to that. Oh, yeah, you're good. You're good.
Yeah.
So this is a rotifer. You guys know what a rotifer is?
Nope.
Nope.
No clue.
Anyway, he's alive and well, and I'm sure there's another pandemic coming.
Well,
Congratulations.
this is just the plot of the movie.
Yeah.
What they failed to mention, or at least they didn't mention it at the very first part of the article, is that the reason they found this was because of how much the ice caps are melting.
No,
So,
they cut a core.
They probably wouldn't have been able to find it.
Maybe not.
Good.
Well, a lot of times we have animals that will help us. They have very valuable service jobs, some more than others. And this one I would have to think is at the top of the list if you live in a place where this is an issue. And thankfully, he has managed to finish his career. You got to think this is one of those like low survivability careers, right?
He's an old man.
Survivorship bias. NPR, after years of detecting landmines, a heroic rat is hanging up his sniffer. So they have a bunch of these. This one is the first one and also the best one, and also help train other rats to do the same. Basically, it's like you find a landmine, you get a reward. You find a landmine, you get a reward.
Magua. They said he caught like 70 some landmines and also some unexploded ordnance. What a champ.
Neat.
They said that he could continue to work, but he was visibly slowing down, so they were just going to let him retire. That's nice. Do you think somebody will adopt him from the munition squad?
I'm sure he'll have a nice life.
He'll go live on a farm somewhere. Don't worry about it.
Krista, you're an artist. How do you feel about performance art?
I'm cool with it. This is maybe stretching it a little bit into the absurd.
Yeah, I would say, but were we not already firmly into the absurd here?
I'll read it. Man who ate 120,000 art bananas said he would have done it sooner, but he wasn't hungry yet.
Well, look at the wall there. That's the art piece.
It was the art piece.
It was the art piece.
You know the craziest thing about this story? They said he sold more than one of these.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's just like the stock. It's just fake at this point. Duchamp called it out years ago.
Look how blackened that banana is. You would like that because you like nasty, rotten bananas. I would not eat that.
They're not rotten. They're ripe when they're that color.
No.
They should be green. Green is wrong.
We got to fix your audio, Krista.
Oh.
There's no time. We just have to power through it. We have 7 minutes. Actually, more like probably 2, right?
Yeah.
This is hilarious because, we're talking about climate change. What can we do about it? What are the solutions?
I'm glad I was here for this one.
Once again, I'm going to apologize. I'm going to apologize to the people of India because I've been crapping on them for the whole cow urine and poop thing. This is no better.
Lunar New Deal. GOP Rep. Gohmert suggests altering the moon's orbit to combat climate change. The Texas congressman asked whether there was anything the U.S. Forest Service could do to change one of the moon's orbits or the Earth's orbit around the sun. I think that maybe we should have a minimum intelligence test for public office.
Absolutely, you should just be out the next day. It's astonishing.
Or we should be a society where the shame from that is so extreme that you just resign.
What if after he said that, there was like an inner council of the U.S. Forest Service, and they were like, he knows.
What if it's like, think about the other things, like the level of embarrassment and idiocy, like throughout his entire career, that he hadn't resigned up till now. Yeah. And then there's that, and he still hasn't resigned.
I don't think he's planning to.
What other crimes against humanity has he committed?
So many.
That have flown under the radar.
So many times there were smaller cases, smaller rooms where there were no cameras, and he was saying the same kind of stuff to local people, and they had no recourse.
Yeah.
Krista, when you drive Rue around, she is free roaming in the car, right?
Usually, yes.
You don't belt her down, and that could lead to tragedy.
It could. Dog ejected from car during Sunday crash found on sheep farm, herding sheep.
Well, that seems like a happy ending.
So
yeah.
A terrible wreck. He was ejected and freaked out from the crash, so he ran. They found him on the sheep farm. He had not eaten or drank any water, but he was dutifully herding the sheep.
What a good boy.
Not anywhere in particular, just, I guess, instinctually.
I wonder if the farmer would have noticed, like, wait, where did this dog come from? Oh, it's surprisingly effective.
You got to bail out. I think we can wrap this up if you...
Yeah, I could do one more.
All right. What a great one to do at the end. Now, a lot of lethal injection companies, like there's only a few companies that make those drugs because it's like, why would we be making drugs that just straight up kill people? And they've gotten woke and they've said, we're against capital punishment. We're not going to sell you these drugs. And that's a little bit of an unintended consequence.
Arizona plans executions with gas used, I'm going to say Zyklon B, because I'm betting the algorithm doesn't know that, and it would be less triggered by what the headline actually says. But yeah, that's I don't think we need to do this anymore. We can, as a taxpayer, I'm cool with just letting them live forever at the taxpayer expense.
Also, famously horrific.
Yeah.
In terms of, although if you really want to go down the darkness there, Auschwitz used this.
Oh.
I'm sorry.
Oh, we're done.
The one that starts with a T. They just used a tank engine.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was way worse.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's exactly what it is. That Zyklon B is a brand name, not anymore, but they're using the same thing. It costs $3,000 for a block of it, and you get the little pellets for the other thing, another $1,000. So for $5,000, they've probably got all they'll ever need to kill everybody with. It is efficient, and that is actually what the high commanders said about the two. The T was more efficient, but they preferred the A because the throughput was just out of control. They could just move so many through there so quickly.
Good job, Texas Department of Corrections.
Also, South Carolina, firing squad's back.
Yeah.
You can get firing squad in South Carolina.
Keep going.
All right. Bye.
All right, we got 6 stories post-Wendell. I don't know why he's taking his chair with him.
It's PW. Post-Wendell.
So this is a great one because, you know, it's wokeness gone wild, but where do we draw the line?
I'll read the headline.
You're reading all headlines from here on out.
Okay. Abertay University student Lisa, I don't know how to pronounce her last name, cleared after being investigated for saying women have vaginas. She also said women are typically not as strong as men, which, all right.
This is in the context of the whole Joe Rogan thing where she's saying that combat sports in particular should not mix genders, even in the case of transgenders. What do you think, Krista?
I'm kind of inclined to agree with that.
I'm going to say this right now, Krista, and you know, you might disagree, but I'm very confident. Even if you gained 100 pounds or 130, however many you had to gain to catch up to me, I will still whip your ass.
Yeah, I think so too.
I'll wipe the floor with you.
I could probably outrun you, but
not if you gain 120 pounds, you can't. So yeah, they tried to do something about her. Now, she did not say that all women have those. Could that be an important distinction? Because some women definitely do. There's no arguing that.
It's weird. Yeah, the combat sports thing, you know, it's just, it seems like that's a good way for someone to get injured. You know what I mean?
I mean, just in general, that's true.
Yeah.
Almost guaranteed that one of you is going to suffer some kind of injury during a combat sport.
I think the injuries might be more severe in that case.
And in fact, you know, it's proven to be true. We've seen it, and it's horrific to watch someone with very dense bones and heavy muscle fibers smashing a girl.
Yeah.
In my opinion. Now, with the rampant unemployment situation and the uncertain future, you might be, if you're a young person, you might be thinking to yourself, you know what? There's always a fallback. I can always just join the military. But maybe this headline will make you pause on that.
Army tuition aid stalled by months-long tech glitch, putting soldiers' futures on hold.
So there's a program that will let you get reimbursements on your tuition as part of, is it still called the GI Bill? That's what it was in.
Yeah, I think it probably still is, but I'm not certain.
That's what it was in Vietnam, at least. And you can get like $1,500 or whatever on payments and stuff like that, but you pay up front and then they reimburse you. Well, the web portal has been down for months. And universities don't wait months to be paid.
No, they don't.
So the government doesn't seem to be concerned about it.
Fussed about it, yeah. Classic. A friend of mine actually joined the armed forces. And I don't know, he wasn't doing it for tuition aid, I don't think, but hopefully this doesn't affect him.
But you get, I think they all get it, right? So if you come out and you want to go back to school, you always can.
Yeah. It's always an option. God, that sucks.
And the labor situation, it seems like that, you know, people are just not willing to take these jobs for whatever reason. Every fast food place, have you noticed, Krista? Every fast food place in town, interviews today, guaranteed interviews, bonus, signing bonus. They need employees and nobody wants to do it. I would venture that a certain website has more to do with this one.
Yes. New Orleans strip club offering contract bonuses due to exotic dancer shortage. Yeah, why would you?
Exactly. If I told you, Krista, if I said you have to do one or the other, yeah, I know you don't want to do either, but you have to do it or you're going to die. Or actually, I'm going to kill your husband and your dog.
That's kind of how it works for a lot of women. Unfortunately, it is sort of like that kind of choice.
But I guarantee that you're going to choose the one where you don't have to actually touch other human beings.
Right, and also you can make your own hours.
Yeah, and you make a lot more money.
But, yeah, like there's no brainer. Why would you do this?
I mean, there's got to be a rolling scale for attractiveness, right?
Right.
Maybe we'll get to a point where only the C-level students are at the strip clubs.
Ooh. Maybe it'll just go away, or it'll go into a darker place.
I don't think so, because that's better for the girl. But I think there are a lot of guys out there who, they live for that contact.
But if they've not got any girls who will do it, though, then that just opens up, room for trafficking. So.
Or they just start using people that weren't always girls. Electronic waste is a big issue. And how much electronic waste would you say you threw away, Krista, when you moved to your new house?
Not a lot, actually. Well, when I got married and moved in with my husband, I purged a lot of crap. Like, I had 7 big body bags worth of just, like, crap that I had saved for years.
Body bags?
Yeah, like, like the really giant trash bags.
I've never heard those called body bags.
Well, they kind of, I could fit in one. If you wanted to you could throw me in a standard size body bag from the grocery store.
After you gain your 100 pounds and we do our combat sport, that's what I'll do. I'll throw it in
well, I don't know. After I gain 100 pounds, I might not fit in as well. Probably, though. I'm pretty tall, though. But yeah, I threw away quite a bit. Not a ton of e-waste, I would say. But, like, just garbage. So much garbage.
Well, the G7, which is the 7 biggest industrialized nations of the world, they're getting together to talk about this kind of thing, and some people have decided to make a statement.
I like it. I'm digging it. G7, Mount Recycle More of leaders made from electronic waste in Cornwall. Cool. Not only it makes a statement, it reuses stuff that would have ended up in the trash anyway.
Now,
cool.
I recognize Boris Johnson, and I'm guessing Merkel is the only girl, right?
Yeah, Merkel.
But I don't know which one is Biden.
I think Biden's on the end there.
Well, that looks like Frankenstein.
Oh, yes, they've used the green. It's kind of a weird cast.
And like the hair, that's not a good Biden.
Oh, Trudeau's there too. I guess he's next to Merkel. But they kind of gave him like a wide-eyed stare.
Oh yeah, you can recognize him.
Yeah.
I think Boris Johnson is the best one, though, don't you think?
Yeah, no, I recognize the Johnson immediately.
And that haircut is kind of in your face, but. So yeah, this is just a statement about they need to do something about e-waste. I don't think they will.
They definitely won't. I mean, this is like a major problem, but they're just like, whatever. That won't get us elected again.
This one is a bizarre story, and I guess it's kind of like the meme stuff where you never know what's going to catch people's imagination, and they're going to start buying. But here it is.
Sales of Elizabeth Holmes swag are soaring online. Is this like girl boss kind of thing?
They do use the hashtag girl boss. Can you tell me what that is about?
So there's kind of like this weird trend, and I think it's mostly focused at women, where you have like mugs and like little name placards that go on your desk, and it just says hashtag girl boss to imply that you are in charge and like a career woman. But they just sell you a bunch of crap to make you feel better about yourself, and I buy into that.
One woman was quoted as saying, "I wish to God Elizabeth Holmes had multi-level marketing so I could join it." Yeah,
well, and like the girl boss thing is definitely something that you see MLMs use.
Okay.
Be your own hashtag girl boss.
Look at those eyes. Look how crazy she is. And
just the crazy eyes. I don't know what that is.
But here's the bigger question, Krista. Why am I so attracted to it?
And she's pretty. She just has really wide eyes. I mean, so do I.
But the eyes enhance it. Like, I know that's crazy, but somehow I'm drawn to it. AOC's got the same thing. My hatred of her is too strong to overcome it, but she's definitely got the same thing, and there's definitely something there. There's a glimmer of something. I'm like, oh, she's definitely crazy. Krista, I think you've played Among Us, haven't you?
Yeah. Did we not play that on stream?
No, we've never played it.
We couldn't play it because we were worried the chat would give it away, I think, because we do the multicam setup.
And I definitely would. What's your thoughts on it?
It's an alright game. It's like a fun party game, but it's not something I could play a ton.
Yeah, it's like short sessions. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it's a short session game.
Well, if you are a bigger fan than her, obviously, you might be interested in this, but unfortunately, I'm afraid it's already sold. You are no longer able to get in on the bidding.
Among Us character-shaped chicken nugget sells for nearly $100,000.
Honestly, I don't think it's that good of a match. Do you?
I mean, it looks like it, but those character models are like they're purposely very simple.
There's no backpack.
I could pay such a big chunk on my house. And someone just used it to buy a chicken nugget.
What would you do to preserve that?
The nugget will be frozen and air sealed while it is shipped to the buyer.
Although, you know that the whole thing where they have the McDonald's Happy Meals that never rot? I bet the nuggets never rot.
Oh yeah, I'm sure it's pumped full of, preservatives and stuff that keep it from dying. I bet you couldn't compost that. Actually, you're not supposed to compost meat in most piles, but
it would just be at the bottom of your compost pile always.
Yeah. It's like, let's fish that out. We'll put it back in there and hope it decomposes for next round.
Not even the worms. It'd probably give your worms cancer.
Probably.
And finally, perhaps, if not already, perhaps this will mark the high water mark of the NFT market. Because, good Lord, this is, I don't know.
Anthony Viner considers selling NFTs of his embarrassing moments. Cashing in would be nice, he says.
What happened to his wife? She was a big part of the Hillary campaign. Is she still in politics?
I don't know. All I remember is like that story broke and everyone was giggling because his last name is Wiener. And then he just disappeared off the radar.
No, he did it again.
Ooh, I didn't know that part.
No, yeah. He got busted twice for that.
But
so they're saying, you're thinking, okay, what is the NFT? Well, they're saying it could be the first tweet that started all of this. It could be the lawsuit paperwork. He has that he could give to. They could stuff about his laptop or whatever, like the 15-year-old girl stuff. That could all be NFT'd. They asked him about it, and he was like, hey, I wouldn't mind cashing in on it.
It's so gross that that is being considered, considering he was texting such young girls. Do you think those girls will get any cut of that? No.
Also, it says here, all the email discoveries cost Clinton the election. I don't think that was that big a part of it.
No, I don't think that cost her the election.
Pleading guilty to sexting a minor in 2017. He's out of. He did 2 years in prison. Wow. I wonder if he wrote a book.
I guess you can profit off that, right? Because criminals write books and stuff like that all the time.
Not if you're in jail, but I think after you've done your time, you can probably, like a memoir. You could probably get away with that.
I would say that means he could probably do the NFT thing. Even if it is kind of like unethical, they don't really care. It would still be legal.
Is there such a thing as an ethical NFT?
Made with pure free range pixels.
Well, this is the unusual and awkward end to the episode, isn't it? Do we have any more updates? I think you've covered everything.
No, Rue licked a spot on her wrist, and so she's got a bandage on it to keep her from licking it. I'm gonna have to take her to the vet next week.
Oh, licked it raw.
Yeah.
Why?
I don't know why. I don't know if she got like a mosquito bite or like just an itchy spot, but we just noticed she was licking it a lot, and then when I looked at it, she had licked it raw. So she's got it bandaged now.
Toast this week has been very lethargic. Like usually,
I mean, it's perfect sleeping weather with the rain.
But usually, when I bring out the rubber noodle toy, like I can't even take a step. He's just right there. He's so he wants it more than anything in the world. And I don't know. Maybe he's just losing his joy with that toy, but he just wasn't into it. I did
Maybe-
break out the laser pointer, and he
Oh.
was very motivated by that. But I don't know. What do
You're
you?
actually bored with the toy. Because Prue does that too. She'll like forget she has a toy, and then she's really excited when we pull it back out again.
You know who's loving it though is Crouton, because he never gets to like really unleash his playful side because Toast is always right there. But now he's blossoming. He's loving it.
You got to get some video of that. Put it on L1 Cats.
I put a video up there not too long ago.
Yeah.
For those of you who are going to ask in the comments, it's L1 Cats, not Level 1 Cats. So it's on YouTube, just L1 Cats.
I should link that up on our channel. Actually, I'll do that here in a second.
Subscribe.
Because there's a place where it's like recommended channels. I'll put that on there. All right. We will see you guys next week. Follow us on Twitch, on Facebook, or not Facebook, on the forum, Twitter, wherever social media things are sold. Store.level1text.com.
Oh, you know what? We didn't get a wrap up of the orange drink either.
Oh, yeah. This is a
But,
weird episode.
If you want to send orange drinks, we still need more of those as well. All right. We
We'll
love
see you
you.
guys. Bye.